Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports. When
it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
It's a blessing to be in the position, and we're just thankful to be here. We're thankful to have the opportunity to go out there and play in front of the 12 man.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Well. Richard Zane joining us on the Go Hour. One of the first. I know you've done it before.
I've never done a Go Hour in this chair before.
In that chair over there, in the other studio, I'm pretty sure
I'm pretty sure, like, only as a host.
Oh, is that right?
I think. I could be wrong. I have been wrong before. My dad likes to remind me that I've been wrong a lot.
Yep.
But I believe this is my first time in Olin's chair, which is why I went with the Olin vibes in my shirt.
You do get the Olin vibes. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studios. The Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Typically, we hang out right over there at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone, but we're at the desk today to break things down. And I've got a question that I know, I saw some of the responses on Twitter. The overwhelming Aggie response will be, don't put us on game day. Because
Richard Zane's overwhelming response might be, don't put us on game day.
Right? Well, the reason is we suck on game day.
Yeah.
Have you seen the record?
I saw it on your rundown. 1-9.
That's not good.
I would have thought maybe like a couple more wins than that, but I knew it was going to be overwhelmingly negative, like a very, very low win percentage on game day, especially at home. Well,
they're 1-9. The question was and is, if A&M's going to be on game day this year, and there's a couple of candidates, we can kind of go through that. I want to go through each week and just kind of guess who will get game day with you.
Yeah, but before we get there, do you know the one? You know the one?
Actually, I do. I was here. It was 2016.
Bingo.
Tennessee.
Yep, and I was a student for that. It was one of the hottest games I'd ever been to. Armani Watts picking off Josh Dobbs in overtime to clinch the victory. That was... I mean, they started 6-0 for the first time since the 90s. It was an awesome afternoon, and then into the evening at Kyle Field. That was my sophomore year at A&M.
And you're old.
As an undergrad, so that was a ton of fun. Those first few games were a lot of fun because they also played UCLA to begin the year at home. Won that game in overtime. Josh Rosen was trying to pump up the crowd. That's shocking that that's their only win in a game day game.
I think Joe Gleason from Channel 13, where I worked, I was reporting that
I love
day.
Joe.
Joe's one of the best humans in the world. Bronny loves him too, Liucci. But I think he was my photographer that day, and he caught video right after the game. Coach Sumlin walked by, and we chatted for a little bit. Mm-hmm. He was, as you can imagine, in a great mood. I reported live from that game, so I do remember that one. That was an awesome experience. But the rest of them, last year they went 0-2 on it.
Yep.
And
bookending the regular season.
Yep, first game, last game. But we'll go through it because they're definitely not going to be on game day week 1 of the season. I'll tell you.
Well, you mean that UTSA game doesn't move the needle for you?
No, but I'll tell you some of the other ones. You've got Texas at Ohio State.
That seems like a shoe-in, right?
But I believe
the semifinal rematch.
But I believe it is a Fox game. Now, that doesn't mean that game day hasn't done, but typically they like to go towards ABC, ESPN level games, right?
Yeah.
But it could be Texas, Ohio State. Auburn at Baylor, nah. Alabama at Florida State, maybe. I don't know. I know that Clemson LSU play, but they're on Sunday. I doubt they would do game day on that. So maybe it is Texas, Ohio State?
I think it would be Texas and Ohio State regardless. I mean, I know big noon kickoff will be in Columbus for that game regardless. That just seems like an obvious destination for game day, at least in week 1. Isn't that going to be Lee Corso's last show, too?
I believe that is the case,
and what was the first headgear he ever put on?
Was it a Buckeye?
It was the Brutus Buckeye head, so it would be it would be symmetry to bookend his headgear picking career with the Brutus Buckeye twice. And it's a semifinal rematch. I know we're giving a little bit too much love to the Texas Longhorns right off the jump here on the Go Hour, but that's really the only game that jumps off to me in week 1.
Well, and I'm going to say this too as we go through this. You may think to yourself, well, maybe A&M Texas later on in the season, and I don't think that'll be the case for 2 reasons, but we'll explain as we get closer. Week 2, Utah State at A&M. The other games that are of importance here, Michigan at Oklahoma.
That'll be a cool one. Big non-conference game. To 2 huge brands. Obviously, I grew up a Michigan fan. I've been to Norman once before. That's a cool venue. And then I see the other one that Matthew Dawson put on here is that Baylor SMU game.
Yeah, could that
I can see it a little bit because SMU's coming off a playoff berth and stuff like that. And I know Matthew's also super high on the Baylor Bears. Although there's a couple games later on in the year that I kind of have my eye on as far as games in Waco, that if Baylor ends up being what Matthew Dawson, our resident gambling expert, expects them to be, then potentially game day could be headed down to McLean Stadium. But I like that Michigan-Oklahoma game in week 2, although the Cy-Hawk Trophy is pretty cool too. That's an interesting non-conference rivalry game early on in the season. Perhaps they get out there, but the Hawkeyes haven't been that great in recent years. The Cyclones have been hit and miss. So I like the Michigan-Oklahoma aspect. That'll most assuredly be an ABC ESPN broadcast because they have the SEC rights and it's on an SEC venue and stuff like that.
Week 3. This one could be the one. Could be Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Some of the other candidates, Arkansas at Ole Miss. I don't think that moves the needle.
No.
Wisconsin, Bama, doubt it. Clemson, Georgia Tech, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to find times where they spread the wealth around, try to find an ACC venue to go to. That might be one where they stop off in Atlanta.
Actually, going back to my thinking for that first game, I don't know if ESPN will want to do game day for an NBC game. You don't want to promote the other I know they have.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that is
for week 1?
No, because the A&M Notre Dame game is
Notre Dame.
NBC.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking maybe not. And plus, it's a night game in South Bend.
Yeah.
So that just kind of seems they've done it before, right? I believe it's actually the year 2018. Michigan and Notre Dame played a night game Labor Day weekend in South Bend, and game day was there.
Right.
It was the week before game day came here for Clemson.
That's
the Clemson
right.
game, Jimbo Fisher's, I believe that was his first year. But game day was there, still on NBC, stuff like that. So they've done, like you said, they've done it in the past. I don't know if there's going to be times and opportunities for them to go to South Bend in the rest of the year.
Sure.
Especially for big name opponents. I know USC goes up to South Bend later on. So potentially that's a game they might highlight as a trip up to see the defending national runner-up.
Now, what this list does not take into account is the storylines that develop throughout the season, right? So there's a lot. Something's going to develop.
Well, that's why you were like, I don't think they're going to go see Arkansas and Ole Miss. But what if Lane Kiffin does something crazy on Twitter that gets the college football world talking?
What if both of them are undefeated and that's their only opportunity? So I don't think that'll be the case. Week 4, A&M's got a bye. Here's some games to consider: Florida at Miami. That could absolutely be it. Auburn at Oklahoma. Illinois at Indiana, Arizona State at Baylor, Michigan at Nebraska.
I'm torn between Florida at Miami. Mm-hmm. No, you grew up a Canes guy.
Yep.
I don't know exactly where they would broadcast from the campus of Miami. Would they go to Coral Gables or would they do it from outside Hard Rock Stadium? I don't know if there's.
I think you have to do it from Coral Gables.
I don't know if there's an ideal way for them to do game day.
Yeah,
with the Hurricanes.
You got to do Coral Gables.
And then I talked about.
Or go to Brickell, which is not far but not close. Where there's always like
they could do something cool to set up like actually down on South Beach too, maybe.
But I don't see the stadium being the place because what do they call it? Miami, the Dolphins, whatever they call that, where they played, the Dolphin Stadium, I think.
Hard Rock Stadium.
Hard Rock Stadium. Thank you.
It's been like 20 different things in the last 20 different years, so you're okay.
The only thing close to it is Hard Rock Hotel. It's in the middle of like a couple of different highways. It's not an ideal place to do it. So
well, they've got an F1 track surrounding the football stadium now. So there's that.
Oh, I did not know that.
But I was talking about games where they might go to Waco. Baylor starts 3-0. Arizona State, who got to the second round of the college football playoff, almost took down Texas. That could be an ideal Big 12 game for them to go see in Week 4.
Yep. We move on to Week 5. Auburn at A&M is the A&M game, obviously. That game potentially, because I don't know if, Kay, do we have Auburn's schedule, or I don't even know if we have that. If you put Auburn's schedule, people are very high on Auburn this year. Is there a scenario where you've got a 4-1 A&M team, a 5-0? Let's see. Auburn opens up at Baylor. That's an interesting game. Ball State, South Alabama, at Oklahoma, at A&M. I mean, if Auburn is undefeated and A&M holds serve like that, I think they will at that point in the season.
I know a lot, like you said, a lot of people are high on Auburn coming into the season, and a lot of people are high on Oklahoma coming into the season. Yeah. So that might be a game that decides the fate of game day the next week.
But I'm going to tell you, it ain't going to beat this one, Alabama at Georgia.
You don't think they're going to that game?
No, I'm saying A&M and Auburn. I don't see a scenario where that's a bigger game than Alabama, Georgia.
I would agree with you, especially with those two storylines surrounding those two head coaches coming off the year that they both just had. I mean, that could be a game that decides a playoff berth. Early on in the season, I know it's way too early in Week 5 to be shooing yourself into a 16-team playoff, but it could be.
Well, Oregon at Penn State, that could have some real Big Ten implications.
Yeah, that could be a big one.
And USC, Illinois, no. Indiana, Iowa, no. Utah, West Virginia, no. LSU, Ole Miss, potentially a third tier of that group.
I like that Alabama, Georgia game. That would be my guess right now. Again, going back to the not promoting other games on other broadcasts.
Which they do every year.
That's what I think is going to hurt Oregon, Penn State. But that could be a night game up in Happy Valley, so who knows?
Yep. Week 6, Mississippi State at A&M, not going to make game day. Later on we do the show, the segment Bank on It. I'm banking on that's not going to win any game day honors. Texas at Florida. Texas is going to be on this list often, unfortunately. Clemson at North Carolina. The Belichick factor, like that could be.
They are going to go to a game in Chapel Hill this year, right? I'm not sure if they've ever done a game in Chapel Hill, like ever done a game day broadcast from there. They like to cross, stuff off the list where they haven't been before. I know a few years ago they did a Harvard-Yale game just for the heck of it. So they are going to go do a Bill Belichick game at some point this season. That might be the one.
Vanderbilt at Alabama. Before you laugh, a couple things to consider. Vandy did beat them last year. And now Ryan Williams has been talking mad smack about Bam. I forget what he said. He was going to bury those cockroaches, something to that effect. I don't know the exact quote, so don't quote me there. And then Pavia had a little response on his Instagram story with some emojis. So there is a little bit of tension boiling in that huge rivalry between
It'd be
Vandy
a little
and Bama.
more interesting to me. Like I could see that argument if they were playing in Nashville.
Yeah.
Right, because they don't do too many game day broadcasts from Music City. So that would be... I would lean a little bit more towards that if they were at Vanderbilt as opposed to at Alabama.
Let's keep it going. Week 7, Florida at A&M. That could be a huge game. Lagway, Marcel Reed, what their records are, but other games to consider that week. Georgia at Auburn.
South Soldus rivalry.
Yep. South Carolina at LSU potentially could be a huge one.
Could be might be the two best quarterbacks in the league going head to head.
Indiana at Oregon, if Indiana continues what they did last year.
I don't think so.
Michigan at USC.
Again, that's going to be probably a Fox broadcast, but that's two huge brands.
Ohio State, Illinois, nah. NC State at Notre Dame.
No, NC State would have to do something crazy. Notre Dame would have to be undefeated because, again, it's going to be an NBC broadcast.
And then the Red River rivalry.
That's always high on their list. They go there, it seems like every other year. And that's fine. So I know I'm an Aggie and I grew up, my mom always told me I could go anywhere for college I wanted to. She just would never pay for me to go anywhere in the state of Oklahoma. So I grew up hating the Sooners too. It's a cool scene. The State Fair outside the Cotton Bowl, that's a cool setting for game day.
Well, how many times, here's going to be the question throughout, and we'll probably start speeding this up, but how many times is Georgia going to be on game day? How many times is Texas going to be on game day? Because there's a lot of opportunities for both, and Bama too. A lot of opportunities for those guys to have multiple weeks. I don't think they're going to give them, maybe they'll give them 2, but I'm not seeing 3.
When it comes to week 7, maybe it's contingent on the outcomes of week 6 and where they go in week 6. Because if they're at Texas, Florida, I don't think they're going to highlight the same team in week 7. But if Florida beats Texas and Florida and A&M are both undefeated going into week 7, then that becomes your shoe-in. The obvious answer is they'll be at Aggie Park and preparing for a huge game between the Ags and Gators.
Week 8, A&M at Arkansas, not going to move the needle. Ole Miss at Georgia, potentially. Oklahoma at South Carolina, potentially. Penn State, Iowa, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Baylor, TCU. Really,
I like the USC Notre Dame game that week.
Yep.
Like I said, trying to find a place for them in the year to go to South Bend. That might be it. That's a big rivalry game too. But then I also like that Tennessee at Alabama game.
But that week 3 when A&M is at Notre Dame, is there one that's bigger? That's probably the one, right? Like if you're looking at that, like
I said Georgia, Tennessee.
Georgia, Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bigger one for me. And then that backyard brawl is always cool, week 3.
Yep. So we're moving on now to week 9. Here's another opportunity for A&M, I think. A&M at LSU. The games that it'll be competing with. Again, I'm not advocating for game day. Like the record is the record. Like it's like the Madden curse. Like it doesn't make sense. But for conversation point in June, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Alabama at South Carolina, Michigan, Michigan State, always a big one.
Yeah, and I'm partial to that rivalry too. But I think that game at Death Valley, the Aggies and Tigers would be a big one.
Yeah,
and we hadn't found a place for them to go to Baton Rouge yet on this schedule. So I think that might be one, especially if LSU ends up doing what Brian Kelly thinks they're capable of.
Week 10, bye week for A&M, South Carolina at Ole Miss, Oklahoma at Tennessee could be a big one. Penn State or Ohio State, another potential one. USC, Nebraska, Miami, SMU. Maybe?
Maybe. I mean, SMU would have to be, have to do something similar to what they did last year.
Yep.
But I don't think they've ever done a game in Dallas. But I also don't know if they've, Manhattan, no. Where's Iowa State? What city are they in? Ames? Yeah, I don't know.
Texas Tech at K-State. Texas Tech could be pretty good this year.
Cocktail party's fun. Cocktail party's
Georgia,
fun
Florida.
to watch.
The Jacksonville. Okay, week 11. I'm trying to get this through because we're already at 17 after. Texas A&M at Missouri. Unless both teams are really good, no chance, and I think Missouri's going to be pretty bad. The games that you could see, LSU at Bama, and I'm looking through the rest of them. Florida State at Clemson. I don't think Florida State's going to be any good. Indiana, Penn State.
But Clemson could be.
Clemson might be a national championship
We
contender.
found a game where Clemson was featured on the schedule, but it was going to be the game in Chapel Hill. If Clemson and Cade Klubnik, they do something similar to what they did in 2024, they're kind of running the ACC, 4 weeks left in the regular season, that might be the time to highlight Dabo Swinney's program.
Yep. Week 12, South Carolina at Texas A&M. If South Carolina is the team that they were last year, if A&M is the team that they were before November,
it's going to take A&M beating Notre Dame, A&M beating Auburn, and A&M beating Florida for that game to be in discussion for a game day host.
What about LSU?
I think you can suffer. You could go 3-1 in those 4 games and be in the discussion. How's that?
Other games. The most important game on that list, I think, will be Texas at Georgia. But you've got Oklahoma at Alabama, and maybe Florida at Ole Miss. Looking through the rest of those.
Texas at Georgia after what they batched up in 2 really good games last year.
Yep.
Like that seems like an obvious answer.
Week 13, Stanford at A&M.
That's my pick, the Jimbo Fisher Bowl.
It should be. It should be in Bucky. Bucky on one side and Jimbo on the other.
That'd be cool.
Tennessee at Florida. Nebraska at Penn State. USC at Oregon. Duke at North Carolina. Kansas State at Utah. Arizona State at Colorado.
I like USC at Oregon that week.
Do you?
And I don't think they go up to Eugene very much. So I think that'd be a cool setting, cool backdrop.
Utah K-State could have some Big 12 implications that week, so keep an eye on that.
I don't know enough about K-State or Utah this year to make any decisions or say anything definitively on either of those teams.
We move on to week 14. Now, A&M and Texas always is going to be in the conversation, but a Friday game, so that changes the conversation, right?
I think you're kind of out.
So what are the other options? Alabama at Auburn, sure, every year.
Iron Bowl. Florida
State, Florida, maybe. Clemson at South Carolina.
That might be a game, especially if Lenora Sellers leads the Gamecocks to like a 10-1 record or 9-2 at that point in the year. They could be. I mean, they could be a playoff team, and the excitement in Columbia could be super high. They might go to the fairgrounds that weekend.
And also Ohio State at Michigan, the game.
It's always a big one.
Yeah.
But that'll be a big noon kickoff. They've done simulcasts where it's game day and big noon at the same time in Ann Arbor. I believe Ryan Day hasn't beat Michigan in 4 years, so hopefully that streak continues.
So to summarize, and we'll probably hit a break before we check in with the folks, but to summarize, the LSU game at Baton Rouge.
I think A&M will be featured on a game day broadcast or 2 this year, I do not know that A&M is going to host a game day this year, which would be okay.
And there's no guarantee they're on game day this year.
And that'd be okay too.
Yeah. I mean,
especially with the record, what the record is.
The 1-9 record, absolutely. All right, we'll do this. We'll hit a break here. Then we're going to check in with the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We'll check in with Cade Bickham. And we'll pay some bills. Right now, though, $17.75. Yes or no? Have you?
I've been. Very, very good.
What'd you order?
I like the turkey there.
You're a turkey guy at a barbecue place, huh?
Certain places. I like to try a little bit of everything, right? Brisket's great. The jalapeno cheese sausage is great. But I do like turkey from time to time.
Okay.
The turkey out at $17.75 is fantastic.
Yeah, you like rib tips? You like burn ends?
Oh, yeah. All of it.
Yeah,
all of it.
They have it all. No jokes today when we're talking about $17.75. Just check it out. They're open Thursday through Saturday.
No meat jokes?
No, I mean, it works because he smiles at it. Like,
because
he looks
it's forward
to it. Yeah,
I've got the shirt, but I don't have the humor.
Yeah, well, and it just, he leans into it. But it's not an act. It's who he is. He loves smoked meats.
He leans into all sorts of smoked meats.
Yes, he does. And they're open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. It is $17.75, txbbq.com, or call them up, 979-492-6241. It's $17.75.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
And we are back. We call it TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We didn't check in. Richard Zane's with us here for the Go Hour.
Howdy.
A couple things about the show. Bronny's taking over, we'll call it 9:33.
Sure.
Okay, ballpark. So we're doing this hour.
He's good with ballparks.
He loves the ballparks. So we'll do this hour. Then we'll do a couple of minutes on the 9 o'clock. Then we're going to run an interview with Logan Lednicky that we did yesterday. Kay Nagley helped me out with that. Bronny will take over. Luch will be here at 10 o'clock. That's kind of the plan.
Perfect. Can't wait to see what kind of jokes and barbs Billy Liucci has for me today.
And for Bronny.
And everybody else.
Yeah, and everybody else. Let's go around the room and say hi to the people. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, that you can do it multiple ways. You can call us up. We might take the call. Depends if you're nice. 979-693-1150. If you text the show, if it's nice, I'll respond. If it's mean, I'll probably respond too. Let's go and say hi to Kate Beckham. Kate, good morning.
Good morning, y'all. How are y'all doing this morning so far?
Richard, you answer the question.
I'm doing very well, Kate Bickham, and you're a calming influence in the office, so it's nice to have you behind the glass. I know Nick's back there helping you out, but just different vibe. Like, yeah, Kate's super chill today, always super chill, like way chiller than Nick.
Yeah.
It is a chill day for sure. In terms of college game day, the one thought that I had, based on what y'all were talking about last segment, was it seems like in recent years they've liked to go to at least one group of 5 game or like a FCS type of game where they try to promote some smaller teams. So maybe there's a week that they'll do that as well. That was just one of my thoughts, though.
I agree with that. Yeah. Like they always try to find a place in the schedule, a place or two where they can go to a venue or a city they haven't been before. And I definitely think they'll try to do that at least once or twice this year.
I didn't take that into account when I was looking through the games. But yes, there'll be, again, there's going to be some storylines to develop. There'll be an FCS school that has this incredible run. I mean, we really didn't touch on the Dion factor. I mean, Dion, if they have any kind of success, he will be a place that they'll want to go hang out. Boulder's a poppin' place.
What is Colorado even projected to do this year now that a lot of the interesting on-field storylines have kind of left, though, with Travis and
it's actually been kind of a quiet offseason for Dion.
Good for him.
Other than he thinks it's bogus, some of the reports about his son, which he should think that.
Yeah. If it's quiet, then I think that's good for the Buffaloes.
Yeah. And it says game day will be at Ohio. Yes, Calvin says game day will be at Ohio State, Texas. It'll be Lee Corso's last show.
Yeah. And I'm sure he'll wear the I'm sure he will wear the Brutus Buckeye head one last time and get all emotional about it, and Kirk Herbstreit might even cry a little, so we'll see.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Ambry Heath, who knows everything about her heritage. Hello, Ambry.
Hello. Yeah, so there's a new Texas law that allows 17 and up student athletes to start participating in NIL deals. From my understanding, they're not quite allowed to actually receive the money until they are participating in the sport at the college they are committed to.
Interesting. I don't know how to feel, Richard, about things like this, because there's the whole capitalist point of view, right? Like, hey, your name should. But are high schools making money off their kids? In college sports, I understood it, right? Like A&M, all these programs. When it started with the O'Bannons at UCLA, like colleges were profiting on the names and the images and the success of their athletes. Is it the same way for high school? Or is it just, it's fair because...
I mean, you see certain states have allowed NIL for years now. It's interesting. I don't know enough about that space to make any comments about it. Like, I can't imagine, trying to think back when I was in high school and some of the athletes that I went to school with, only a couple of them ended up playing Division I and then on into the pros. But I can't imagine that those guys who were just kids, buddies, classmates could have profited too much off their NIL in Flower Mound, Texas. I can't imagine that it's going to be a ton.
It's one of those, I think I got to sit on it, kind of investigate it a little bit more. At first thought, I'm like, well, it'd be great if Christian and Cruz could make some money, right? There's that thought. And then there's but I don't know. Is it fair? Absolutely. I just don't want it to open up other issues down the road. Because the NIL, which is I think a needed component, has opened up other issues, especially when you have the transfer portal at the same time.
Well, you say you don't want to open up other issues down the road. Have we not just been opening issue after issue with each and every piece of legislation
100%.
regarding college athletics and now I guess high school athletics over the last decade. Like, we have seriously opened Pandora's box, and it's only getting crazier, it seems.
All right, we'll hit a break here. We want to stay on point because we went so long on that first segment. Aggieland, get ready for Comcast. They're coming. Xfinity and Comcast Business are expanding to Bryan College Station, bringing cutting-edge fiber internet to over 70,000 homes and businesses. So whether you're streaming your favorite team, gaming, or growing your business, Comcast's ultra-fast secure network is built for you. With multi-gigabyte speeds and unmatched reliability, the expansion is a game changer. Businesses will thrive, students will have seamless access to online learning, and most importantly, sports fans can enjoy crystal clear entertainment without interruptions, and it is just the beginning. Comcast is also building a new high-tech hub, rolling out 1,000 miles of fiber, and opening a state-of-the-art Xfinity retail store. The investment strengthens the local economy, provides new opportunities, and makes sure that everyone in Aggieland has access to connectivity that they deserve. Stay tuned, Aggieland. The future is fast. Learn more at ComcastTexas.com/BCS. All right, guys, let's talk about some new partners. Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. They're Aggie owned and operated. They are an mobile IV hydration company that was founded back in 2024. I met with Sheldon and Danny over the last week, and they're awesome people. They really know what they're doing. They're proud to serve Bryan College Station with awesome services like IV hydration, Botox, and even some weight loss options. Whether you're looking for a quick boost of hydration or dehydration preventative, they can tailor an IV cocktail specific to your needs. And on a busy week, and I know some of you guys might be partying a little bit too much. If that's the case, an IV can be one of the easiest ways to ensure you're receiving all those necessary vitamins and minerals that make you feel better. Their overall mission is to bring a more personalized and accessible wellness option to the broader range of clientele here in the Bryan College Station and Brazos Valley area. To book an appointment or inquire about it, just call them up or text them. 979-217-1561. Again, it's Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. Check them out. It's our friends at Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. And we are back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Richard Zane sitting in on the Go Hour. And Matthew Dawson, who is kind of like our stat/smart guy.
Well, when I need to be educated on any topic, I go to this guy because he is without a doubt the smartest person I know.
Not when it comes to baseball, though. But I do need to educate you on Pete Crow Armstrong and his MVP.
I mean, I'm all in. You have educated me. I'm all in on Pete Crow Armstrong being a serious MVP candidate.
There's only one guy that I think could potentially go toe-to-toe with Matthew Dawson, sports-wise knowledge.
Well,
okay.
His name is John Harris.
John Harris is John Harris is an Ivy Leaguer. Like, that dude's actually
1934 Heisman Trophy. He'll tell you without even a split second.
He's a genius.
Yeah, so that's
the way
the
that
guy.
man's brain is very similar to yours. Yeah, it's interesting.
That's fine. But, I mean, I guess you brought me on for a reason. Why was that reason?
Well, you shot me an email. It's like, put me on a damn show. Is what
No,
it said.
that's not what I said.
And it said, hey, David, here's an interesting stat.
David
interesting
Nuño
data.
scared of 5'4" Matthew Dawson.
I'm very scared. Transfer portal quarterbacks by conference. And I think it's interesting because you sent me some numbers. The one that caught my attention was obviously the SEC. We'll kind of go through it. But also, I'm wondering if this has been a trend since the portal has really become a different thing. The portal's been around, but since the 21 version of the portal. So give us some of the numbers you found.
Well, the 21 version of the portal allowed players to transfer freely one time, right? But this is actually the first transfer portal cycle that you're seeing where people can transfer unlimited number of times without consequences of having to sit out a year. So you're looking at, and quarterback specifically gets, a lot of the attention in the portal because that's in high demand. There's only one quarterback that's starting on the field at a time. So it is a staggering number in college football, and these are Matthew Dawson projections, so put an asterisk there because you got to kind of assume certain quarterback battles.
Did the model have any input on this?
There's no model. This is just
no model. It's just your
this
brain.
Was grit. This was just looking at team by team. College football, 136 of them. 89 out of the 136 college football teams this year are potentially set to be starting a transfer portal quarterback. Not necessarily from this past cycle.
89 of 136.
89 out of 136. That is 65.4%, which is staggering to me. And this is a breakdown necessarily by conference. The ACC, 14 of their 17 quarterbacks are likely going to be portal guys.
Why do you think that is?
In the ACC? I don't know. I mean,
well, because I think, and sorry for cutting you off, ACC quarterbacks that are good leave for a better conference, opening the door for a lot of people. And I think that's the main reason. It's become a development league for quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think it's got to be, you got to look at it program by program, though, because, like, Clemson got their guy in the class of 2022 with Klubnik, and he's still there. And he's one of the four in the ACC that aren't, Clemson's one of the four schools that aren't going to start a transfer portal yet.
Yeah, and it'd be Cade Klubnik of Clemson, Kevin Jennings at SMU, and Elijah Brown at Stanford. I also think, like, the bottom half of the ACC, like, there's not a lot of depth there. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when you look at a conference like the SEC with a lot more depth in terms of, like, just talent, and probably more money, like you said, I mean, it's a more desirable place to be for sure. You're not going to leave an SEC school as easily as you would leave a Cal, like Fernando Mendoza leaving to go to Indiana. But if you want to put the graphic back up there again, too, some of these, like, G5 conferences also interest me, too. Like, the Mountain West is right there with the lowest percentage of starting quarterbacks that are going to be transfers. And I think part of that is because you had, like, 9 coaching changes in the offseason last year.
Right.
So I think,
that plays a role for sure.
That plays a role in having a lesser amount. If you were to say that, this year, I guess, like, if there were more coaching transfers, like, or coaching hires this year, I would say that, like, that number would probably be higher. But the Americans right there, too. And they hired 6 coaches in this offseason, and so I just think that these numbers were pretty interesting. But the Big Ten, super high number of transfer portal quarterbacks.
How many coaching changes did they have?
Big Ten? I don't think they had a single one.
I don't think they had it. And the SEC didn't either, which is interesting, the two different...
You're going back 2 years for coaching changes?
I was going back 2 years for the Mountain West. This past cycle, the Big Ten SEC did not see any coaching changes.
Both didn't have it, but the SEC, which... It's more about, I think, the depth and the homegrown talent. But interestingly, you can look back at the last few years, the SEC, when they've had a transfer quarterback, has seen some success. Jaden Daniels, obviously, Joe Burrow, different era of transfer portal, but there has been a lot of success for the SEC. Jackson Dart at Ole Miss didn't win at the level that they wanted, but obviously very successful.
Hendon Hooker.
That's Hooker as well.
One.
Yep.
So I just think it's pretty fascinating, like, specifically in the SEC, having a lower number of transfer portal quarterbacks and also unprecedented coaching continuity. You were talking about it on air with Brauninger the other day, but could be crazy. Could be a crazy year in the SEC from top to bottom in terms of competitiveness.
Hey, I did want to bring up, so Ambry brought up the whole NIL high school deal. How do you kind of look at that and what that means for Texas high school sports NIL for athletes and what it looks like here over the next few years?
So I believe the stipulation is like you have to be at least 17 in order to get an NIL deal. Now that changes. Like Ryan Williams, for example, came to Alabama and he set foot on campus and signed a deal. You know, he was 16 years old when he stepped foot on campus, right? So people are asking, like, oh, does that deter like players from coming to, say, Texas to play football if they reclassify and they're 16 years old? The answer is no. Like there's some context in there. There's a stipulation where if you were enrolled in a university or a higher education institution, that's kind of waived. So you can be under 17 as long as you're enrolled in an institution of higher education. So there is some stipulations that cover that. But in terms of like high schoolers, I know Ambry was talking about off air, like, oh, someone might get held back, to start receiving NIL compensation in high school. That's an interesting thought. That's an interesting thought. I'm not sure if you'll see people that are readily, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like that's unseen territory. I don't know what we're going to see in terms of the high school NIL scene.
Yeah, it's putting the parent hat on. What I would want for my kid is different than reality, right? Like what you want is like do it the right way. I'm not saying that's the wrong way. I'm just saying do it the right way. Go to your 4 years, get to your next level. If you're blessed enough to receive some NIL deals, but could you imagine being in a scenario that you are faced with $500,000 by staying back for a year, and what that money could do for a family, like any family, middle class, underprivileged, whatever it may be.
I'm thinking about like these small towns where they've got like a great quarterback. Go back a few years ago, think about Terry Bussey, right, and what he meant to Timpson High School football, and helping them win a state championship. Is there a player like that in a small town like that where they're willing to pull their money together, keep him around for an extra year? That's an interesting thought. I think that's an unforeseen circumstance of this legislation. But at the same time, you knew that Texas Ledge wasn't going to do anything to put schools like Texas and Texas A&M and the others at a recruiting disadvantage.
Right. Matthew, good stuff, man. Thank you very much, buddy.
You got it.
All right, we'll come back with Bank on it right now. If your wheels have been damaged by potholes, curbs, or mediums, go see the experts at Brazos Valley Wheel Repair. Don't replace those damaged rims, repair them. The experts there have over 2 decades of experience. They're always making sure that your wheel is returned to perfectly safe working condition. They road force balance all their wheels to make sure you get the smoothest, most safest possible ride that is possible. If your wheels are in good shape but you just want a fresh look, let the pros at Brazos Valley Wheel Repair find you the right custom, unique look that will transform your car or truck into something that you just absolutely love. It is Brazos Valley Wheel Repair. They offer interest-free financing and even offers for first responders, active military, and veterans a 10% discount with ID. The Brazos Valley Wheel Repair. Find them at bvwheelrepair.com in person or at 508 Burnett Street in Bryan.
Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuño here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games there at Olson wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it.
And we're back at TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Ambry Heath, do you have your TexAgs.com open with the breaking news?
I do.
Do you want to tell us what the breaking basketball news is, or do you want me to tell the world?
I can tell the world.
All right, tell the world.
Tell the world.
Spanish guard Ruben Dominguez commits to Texas A&M basketball, and I think you said he had 4 years of eligibility, right?
Yeah, he's 22 years old.
Okay.
Going to be one of the oldest players on the roster, but has 4 years of eligibility. And 6'6", 190, dude can shoot, and he's from Spain, which means he's probably going to be really good.
Played professionally for Bilbao.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bilbao.
6'6". Anytime Bucky goes out and gets anybody, it seems like it's a high trajectory. The arrow's pointing up kind of thing. So if Bucky likes him, I like him, right?
In 2021 FIBA U19's World Cup, he averaged 18.7 points, almost 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Last year for Bilbao, didn't average a lot of points, 6.3 points a game, but he shot 39.6 from three-point line. So another three-point shooter, a guy that I think that they're going to be super excited about. He won a MVP over Victor Wembanyama.
I know that name. I'm not a big basketball guy, but I know Wemby.
Back in 2019, the FIBA U16s. So he should have been the number 1 pick.
It's impressive.
So there you go.
Anytime you're mentioned in the same breath as Victor Wembanyama.
We need to break it 55-55, according to Cade. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was in my ear. I could barely
Thank you,
pick it
Cade
out.
Pickup.
Yeah, thank you, Cade.
Not panicking at all, Cade
Not
Pickup.
panicking at all. All right.
The other piece of breaking news is that Michael Early and company just got a transfer portal guy.
So is that what Bronny was alluding to last night?
That's what Bronny was alluding to.
Tell me more.
So it's going to be right-handed reliever MJ Brauninger. He's a guy out of Florida Atlantic. He spent 1 year with the Owls in Boca. It's a 2.1 ERA, a whip of 1.13 in 44 2/3 innings pitched.
Okay.
So he said in an interview with Ryan Brauninger, you can find that on TexAgs.com now. Got to be a premium subscriber to catch it. But he said that the idea is for him to come in and be a closer. And we know that Texas A&M's bullpen last year, not exactly the most reliable bunch. Of course, Weston Moss was great until he had to deal with the mononucleosis. There were flashes from guys like Caden Wilson, flashes from Luke Jackson. But anytime you can add somebody with those kinds of numbers and that kind of projection, it's going to be a good addition for Mike Early, Jason Kelly, and company. It's their first addition out of the transfer portal in this cycle as they look to build that roster for the fall and then into 2026.
All right. Bank on It time brought to you by Vera Bank. So Josh Pate put out his top 10 quarterbacks in the SEC. He has DJ Lagway at number 1, which to me means what he thinks he'll turn into because he hasn't been that just yet. He's got Marcel Reed at number 9. And I'm banking on Marcel moving up those ranks. I think he's better than Taylor Green. I know some folks back there are really high on Taylor Green. I think he might be better than Jackson Arnold. We haven't seen enough from Jackson Arnold. It'll be interesting how he does with Hugh Freeze. But all these guys on this list, for the most part, don't have a lot of experience. So I'm banking on Marcel Reed moving up the chains. If he's in your 7-6 range, I think A&M could have a dynamic season. Richard, you have anything you want to bank on?
Absolutely. I'll bank on myself watching more of the of the NBA Finals after last night's game with Tyrese Halliburton hitting the game-winning shot. I know a lot of people were projecting the Thunder to win in 5, maybe 6 games. This series looks like it's going to be 6, 7, maybe in length, so that'll be exciting.
I guess we got to hit a break. The music went away. See you in a bit. Hey everyone, David Nuño and Olin Buchanan and OB. Typically we start off the show in this section and we call it the Holistic Planning Cool
The cool zone, yeah. It's pretty cool.
What do we know about holistic planning?
Well, a lot of cool stuff. For instance, holistic planning can help you with your investments.
I love that.
They can help you with your taxes. So
I don't like paying taxes.
You can get that money from your investments and they keep it, they'll help you keep it away from the government.
Yep.
Not all of it, but more of it. And then they'll even help you with your estate planning. When you're old like me, you got to make sure some of that money you made is there for when you want to retire and just enjoy the rest of your life.
You want your estate to be planned. But they also do something else.
Yeah, well, if you are, like, say, a sports fan, and you've always wanted to...
Everybody watching us, right?
Yeah. And you want to always dreamed of being an owner? Well, in a certain way you can, because they will broker the deal for you to invest in pro sports.
Yeah, what you need to do is check out investinprosports.com. That's where you can get all the information if you want to invest in a team. I don't know what team. He'd probably try to buy the Cowboys. I'd try to buy a lot of the Houston teams. Whatever it may be, investinprosports.com. It is holistic planning, and we love hanging out at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. We're back. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is hour number 2 of the program. I'll be tapping out to do some work later on, but Bronny taking over, we'll call it 9:33, I think is what we said. We're going to do a quick segment here. Then we're going to run the interview with Logan Lednicky. Kay Nagley's going to host, not only host it, she's going to front it before we run it because there's some updates on there. But I want to go through this article I read. It's from Saturday Down South, one thing that could derail every playoff team for the SEC's top contenders. On that list, believe it or not, A&M is on there. Okay? They're a playoff contender, according to them. And it says, the disaster scenario for Texas A&M. The defensive front can't replace what it lost. And I've got some thoughts on that. And I'm not going to read the
they weren't all that highly productive. as a defensive
They had-
front, but
they
I
had moments.
understand. Yeah, they had moments, and down the stretch they weren't as productive as far as getting sack numbers, TFL numbers as they were early on. But I also understand that opposing offenses schemed around that to try and
Sure.
take away guys like Stewart and Scorton and Turner away from the Aggies, kind of make them non-factors. But we've seen flashes from guys like Rylan Kennedy. Right?
Cassius Howell,
For sure. Albert Regis is one of the most experienced guys in there. They expect DJ Hicks to take a big step. Marco Jones looked fantastic in the maroon and white game. I know you can't read too far into a spring game,
But just look at him,
but like
you know.
5 sacks in one game, like that's an insane number.
You
And then
just
of course
look
what
at
they
him.
did through the transfer portal, they feel like they have done enough to make up for that production, then hopefully add some more.
So a couple of things it says here. The Aggies have a ton of intriguing pieces in year 2. A healthy Le'Veon Moss is a beast, and A&M can turn to Reuben Owens whenever it needs to. Marcel Reed, a dual-threat quarterback who gets an entire offseason to train as a starter, makes the run game that much more dangerous. And all 5 starters return on the offensive line to make things even better. So that's the good thing. But it says their ceiling is going to be dependent on how, actually it's talking more about the secondary than it does about the defensive line. And that's with they deemed a very productive defensive line. I would say kind of a mixed bag when it comes to the defensive line.
I think you might also be able to call it a mixed bag from what you saw from the secondary
Sure.
last year too. But Will Lee's back. Miles Davis, I know the guys on the back are super high on him. Tyreek Chappelle should be back. Dalton Brooks. We know that Bryce Anderson's played a ton of football in his career at Texas A&M. They got to be better on the back end of the defense, but I mean they've got the pieces and the experience back that leads me to believe that they will be.
They give some stats about their defense, which we all know it. We've talked about on this show several times.
It wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough.
It was not. But when you hear the numbers, actually I thought it might have been worse. But they gave up 405 passing yards to LSU.
Yeah,
Most
in
of
a
that,
game they won.
In a game they won.
Blew LSU out.
Gave up 301 to Auburn. Peyton Thorne threw for 301.
How much of that came in overtime?
He was still having a ball. He was balling.
He was balling out, but how much of that came in overtime?
I don't have those numbers. Then 295 to USC. And South Carolina completed 13 passes, but those 13 passes were for 244 yards. So the secondary was terrible.
Their tackling issues in the South Carolina game are well documented.
Yeah. So that when you talk about the defensive line, I think you just need to be good on the defensive line. I'd love for them to be great. Good on the defensive line and really good on the back end. And it makes up for not being the perceived great defensive line. Because you can have a great defensive line, but if you're throwing all day on the secondary, it doesn't matter. Last year, I think both did not live up to, there weren't a lot of expectations because I think Will Lee was fantastic, but for the rest of it, there weren't a lot of expectations, but nobody thought they would be that bad.
I agree. I mean, they've got to be better than they were last year, point blank. Like last year's was not good enough. It was not the standard, and I think Mike Elko understands that. I think Jay Bateman understands that, and I think everybody who plays on that defense understands that. That's why they've made some changes. They brought in some guys. Mike Elko is going to have a bigger hand in the defensive play calling to get that defense to where it needs to be, and hopefully allows this A&M team to become a playoff contender.
The other disaster scenario I wanted to bring up involves the team that A&M will play this year, South Carolina. And the only reason I want to bring it up is because not only does A&M play them, but I think it's a very interesting time in college sports for reasons that we haven't really gotten into. We've gotten into the playoffs, we've gotten into NIL, transfer portal, but this is something different. This is eligibility. So it says here the disaster scenario for South Carolina is the NCAA ties one arm behind Shane Beamer's back. So if you don't know, they picked up Rashal Faison from Utah State to be their lead running back. I don't know if you've seen his story, but he does not have eligibility. So we'll get into that into a second. They haven't deemed his eligibility yay or nay yet. But they'll have to replace Rocket Sanders, who ran for 881 yards, and he played great against Texas A&M.
He's always played great, even back when he was at Arkansas.
Faison rushed for over 1,000 yards last year, almost 6 yards per carry. So he would be a huge get for South Carolina. But the problem is his eligibility is under scrutiny because of the JUCO rule that in certain cases has worked out to people's favor, and other cases it has not. Diego Pavia, hello, it's working out in his favor.
I think we know all about the JUCO rulings because
Evan Aschenbeck.
Evan Aschenbeck is the big one.
We would have loved. I mean, how different does the season look? But it didn't happen. All right. But it says he started as a gray shirt at Marshall, meaning he enrolled but didn't get to play. Okay. He then took online classes in 2020 during COVID at Lackawanna College, a JUCO.
Wait, so he started college in 2019?
Correct. Which is the why behind it. Like you've got the 5-year ticking window, right? And that's already expired. He's only played. He went to Snow College in 21, did not play. Okay. 22 plays 1 season at Snow, rushes for 355. 23 and 24 plays for Utah State in those 2 years, almost 2,000 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns. He had an 8-touchdown season in 24. So he's only played 3 seasons of college football, 1 at a JUCO, 2 at Division I.
But he started his
He started his clock in 2019. So some folks believe he will be deemed eligible.
I mean, from what you just told me, and I don't have all the facts, but it seems like he should be eligible.
He should be,
especially with the way eligibility and everything has changed over when you include COVID waivers and medical red shirts and all that fun stuff. Like the 5-year clock doesn't really mean anything to me anymore.
So here's where it gets interesting. This is not the first time this has happened. It's actually happened this year with Rutgers. Jeff Alad started his career also in 2019, spent time at JUCO, won an antitrust case against the NCAA, securing an extra year of eligibility. So it really mirrors this story as well. Both players have only played 3 seasons. Both started their careers in 2019, but they still haven't granted Faison that eligibility.
That's so weird. Like, wouldn't Cam Rising have another year of eligibility if he wanted it?
I feel like it, but he started his career at Texas, in 2019, 2018?
Yeah,
so you would think so.
But at the same time, I also understand why there's so much uncertainty surrounding the NCAA and decisions that they make, because they're so wishy-washy and you never know what you're going to get from that quote-unquote governing body while they're still quote-unquote in power. So, yeah, to me, it sounds like that guy should be eligible. And if you're an Aggie and if you're anybody in the SEC, you obviously hope he's not, because what if if South Carolina's got a 1,000-yard rusher in the running back, that's going to make Lenoris Sellers that much more lethal.
Yeah.
And that's a 1-2 punch that's super scary.
And again, that's the big question. They didn't upgrade their wide receivers. They tried to upgrade their running back room with Rocket Sanders moving on. So, but if they don't have him, they are definitely not going to be the same offense that you saw last year.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting because it has A&M ties because of the schedule and also what we went through with Evan Aschenbeck.
Sure, something to keep an eye on.
The other storyline I wanted to get into here was, and this is one that we actually did a year ago, leading up to the Notre Dame A&M game.
Okay.
The lack of experience on that Notre Dame offensive line. Okay?
Which seemed to matter.
It did not matter at all. Remember some of the storylines like, are they going to be able to adapt to the heat? Yeah, it gets hot in Indiana. It does. It gets really hot. But, by the way, I was part of that asking the question out loud. So I'm part of the issue. But Marcus Freeman says he's got a lot of confidence in their offensive line. He says the 5 guys that would be starting right now all have started multiple games for us. And if you go through that, but they also did lose some guys, right? So you saw Rocco Spindler, Pat Coogan, Ty Chan, and Sam Pendleton. Spindler made 23 starts. Coogan made 26 starts. Pendleton made 7 starts. So that's who they have coming back. A&M last year when we played them, first game of the season, you thought maybe that offensive line would eventually get good. They were very good. Were they very good? Yes. Were they very good against A&M, or was A&M's problem, going back to that topic we just had a few minutes ago, the defensive line, were they just not that good?
I don't think the defensive line was a problem. I don't think the defensive line wasn't that good, right, guys? You saw what the NFL thought of A&M's defensive line. Shamar Stewart, first round. Nick Scorton, second round. Shamar Turner, second round. That was a good defensive line. The production didn't match the talent. And in times, the offensive line of whoever they were playing could take them away. I bet you Notre Dame schemed A&M's defensive line extremely well, was able to make them a non-factor, and was able to find ways to win football games in other areas other than the war in the trenches with their offensive line versus A&M's defensive line.
By the way, I want to make sure I read it correctly. Several from that offensive line have moved on. That includes Rocco Spindler, Pat Coogan, Ty Chan, Sam Pendleton. but the group overall, which had a lot of freshmen last year and sophomores playing, a bulk of it are coming back.
Well, we know how important continuity is. We know how important experience is. And if Marcus Freeman thinks they've got enough experience on the offensive line and he's high on their offensive line, then I don't see why anybody else wouldn't be, because I think Marcus Freeman's a heck of a coach. I mean, he's such a young guy, but he's already got some impressive skins on the wall, getting his team to the national championship game.
He's had more success at Notre Dame than Brian Kelly's had at LSU. And yes, Brian Kelly had a lot of success in year one and has not been a bad coach. But with all the talent and all the Notre Dame has done better in that window than LSU has.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, you can.
Well, LSU's won 9 games in all 3 of Brian Kelly's first 3 seasons.
Yep.
That's tough to do in this league.
But they haven't made the playoffs.
And we know Olin wrote a preview for the Tigers this week. You know, expectations and standards and demands in Baton Rouge far exceed 9 wins, and they usually far exceed 10-win seasons.
Yep.
So although 10 wins might be enough to get you into the playoff.
Richard, thanks for coming in, buddy.
Of course. Hopefully this isn't a failed experiment.
We'll find out.
I did okay, but I'm sure I'll find out around 10 o'clock when you know who rolls in.
Well, and he's probably listening right now. He'll be in at 10 o'clock. Bronny will be in here shortly. We'll have the interview with Logan Lednicky here shortly, so we'll get into that. But right now,
super cool.
She was awesome.
That's awesome. Like, to be playing for your national team, your senior national team, while you're still in college. Awesome. Hats off to Logan.
Hanging out in Rio?
Yeah, I mean, lucky Logan Lednicky. I hope everybody enjoys that interview. You guys did a great job with it.
Thank you. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you need to check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during these awesome marquee events held throughout the year. We're talking about all Aggie Hullabaloo, Aggie Ring Day, Gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of people. And there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities to get your brand in front of those attendees. These events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. And this includes title sponsorship naming, on-site presence, activation, and recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com.
Welcome back into TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. I'm sitting in the host chair for like a brief second. Kay Nagley with you. As we transition, David Nuño had to leave. Brian Brauninger will be taking over. But first, I want to get into an interview we did with Logan Lednicky yesterday, TexAg's star volleyball player. She is over in Rio playing for Team USA. She's one of 14 athletes selected. That is just such an awesome accomplishment, and we got to speak to her about it a little bit yesterday. I want to go back to some of the stats that we didn't get to talk about with her because she was just in the middle of a playing schedule. So on Wednesday against Italy, she had 9 points, 8 kills. That is incredible for a Team USA player, and 1 block. She's been awesome all year for A&M, and she's doing the same over in Rio. And then she faced Team USA, and Logan faced Team Brazil last night. Unfortunately, Brazil did win that game. That it was in front of a huge Brazil crowd there in Rio. She talked a little bit about that in the interview, just looking forward to playing in such a crazy environment. She only had limited action last night with 2 kills, but still great contributions, and they will play Czech today. So with that being said, here's this Texas Aggies United interview with Logan Lednicky.
All right, time for another Texas Aggies United interview here on TexAgs Live, and our thanks to our good friends at the 12th Man Foundation. We're talking about the Nations League in volleyball, and Logan Lednicky is joining us, who made her debut in an international competition just not long ago. Logan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Love being here.
So, all right, tell me about Rio, but I want to hear like different layers of it, right? Like I know Rio's beautiful, but tell me about being in Rio, playing the love of your life, which is volleyball, and everything that what it means to represent your country and everything that's comes with it.
Yeah. Gosh, to say the least, it's been a surreal experience. So got here a few days ago. Just had some practices leading up. The views are just beautiful. I'm here staring at the ocean and some mountains in the background, so can't complain about that. But had our first match against Italy last night. Didn't go our way, but like I said, completely surreal experience, just being able to go compete against the world's best volleyball players. And I don't know, it was a blast. Like they make the whole production. And we're in Brazil. They absolutely adore volleyball here. Doesn't matter who's playing, who's on whatever side of the net, they want to watch volleyball. And so it was packed. And tonight, our match against Brazil is actually sold out completely. So going to be 10 times louder, apparently. But no, it was just a blast, and I'm excited to keep. We have 3 more matches, so yeah, excited to keep playing and showing the world, what USA can do. So,
walk us through the process of being named to the national team and just what your summer has looked like so far. I imagine it's been pretty busy.
Yeah, so it's been amazing. So, the national team trains out in Anaheim, California. So, been there about almost 2 months now. And most girls will stay until the end of September. Just it's considered like a national team season because there's more than just BNL. There's world championships, Pan Am tournaments, that sort of thing. So, but because I have to come back, got 1 more season at A&M, I'll be back in July in College Station. And so, yeah, been there just training, train almost every day. But it's been a really, really great group of girls. It's the first year of the quad. New Olympic cycle, just because Paris was last year and then LA 2028. And so, yeah, first year of the quad, so a lot of new faces, which has been really honestly refreshing. Just me coming in as a younger girl on the squad. And so that's been a really cool experience, just getting to be a part of all that.
Logan, talk to me about finding out you're making the national team or getting the call that you're going to be in the mix. How did that all kind of take place and in your emotions as it was happening?
Yeah, so back in, I don't even remember what month, maybe March or February, I don't know. I went to Colorado Springs it's more of like the open training, I guess you could say, for USA Volleyball, where it's kind of just like getting looks in front of coaches, not expecting much. I was just going there kind of for the training. And Eric pulled me aside while I was there and asked me to come be a part of the long roster for VNL this summer. And I about fell out of my chair. That was the last thing I was expecting him to say to me. But yeah, it's insane. Just such a cool experience, and getting to be in the gym with some of these veterans and people who have played in Olympics and getting to be around all these coaches who have been there. I mean, even Karch, the former women's national team who's in the gym in Anaheim, like getting to watch him do his thing and just all sort of little bits and pieces of this experience has been such a great like learning process for me. So.
How supportive has Coach Jamie Morrison been to you throughout this process? He comes from the USA ranks. I imagine this is really cool for him to see his player playing in Rio.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, these are his old stomping grounds. Like this is, we talked on the phone and he was just kind of saying like, this is his old life. Like he used to do the same exact thing I'm doing, just from like a coaching perspective. And so it's just a little full circle moment for him. I mean, I think he knew coming into the Texas A&M job that I knew I wanted to be in the USA gym, and I think he knew that he could get me there. So it's kind of cool to seeing it pay off on both ends for him and for me. So we've been talking a lot. They watched the match last night, and I'm sure they'll continue to watch. So yeah, it's been cool to hear from him.
He's one of my favorite people. I just love talking to him. His energy, he's awesome. But I want you from like a player's perspective to kind of describe, like he walks in here every time and has this love for volleyball, and it's almost like it's his mission to put volleyball on the same level of the big three, right? And he believes it. He is about that life. So talk about how that translates in that environment across the street from where we are right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can just see the difference it's made in the past 2-3 years he's been here, just within us, within affecting the 12th man, like the fan base. Like you can just see the, I guess, passion for volleyball kind of being spread everywhere. And I think like people are just getting more and more excited to see how we continue to progress. Obviously had a great ending to last season, Sweet 16 run. And so, yeah, you can really feel his passion every day. I mean, in practice, y'all can feel it when he walks in there for an interview. And so I think that's translated to how we're playing and how we'll continue to play. So.
Can you talk about some of the girls that you're playing with right now? I mean, they are regarded as obviously the nation's best, but also just the country's best around the sport of volleyball. Olivia at Pitt, I imagine playing with Madison Skinner from Texas has been fun. Just what has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's been a blast. I mean, honestly, for some of these older girls, I've just grown up watching. I mean, Jordan Poulter, Danielle Catino, like these girls who are in the gym, because granted, a lot of the Olympic team from last year, they are taking like this year off, like this summer off. So not too many of the veterans are there, but it's been just so cool to get to learn from like Jordan, Danielle, all those girls, and then getting to be along on the same side of the net as like these Texas girls, like Asia O'Neal, Maddie Skinner, like all those, Logan Eggleston, and then getting to, finally meet Olivia Babcock and like getting to bounce our ideas off of each other. Like I feel like we've gotten super close this summer, just being in the same position and being like younger girls of the team. So it's been really great having her in the gym this summer and on this trip. So yeah, it's been really cool just to get to like, I don't know, see people on the different side, like being on the same side of the net as some of these girls.
Logan, I want to talk about you becoming an Aggie and what that was like growing up in an Aggie household. Everybody knows your dad's Kyle's story. But like, when did you know you're going to be an Aggie? Was it something you knew as, a 5, 6, 7-year-old? Did you have a different path in mind and kind of came back to A&M? Just take us through that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I was going to Aggie football games since I was in the womb. So I grew up knowing that I wanted to be an Aggie through and through. But I think as I continue to get better at volleyball, like realistically, like the stars don't always align, right? Like they might not have needed, my position that year, whatever. So I think like having my options open and trying new things was kind of the goal in mind when I did start recruiting, just because, I mean, I didn't know what to look for. I was new to the whole thing. And so as recruiting went on, I took all the advantages I could, just taking the trips, taking the recruiting visits, just to kind of see what's out there. Cause all I knew was A&M, and it's great. Like I wouldn't change it for the world, but might as well look while you can. And so I think after taking those visits, I just kept circling back. I was like, I wouldn't want to be any other place. And I kind of came back to like, if volleyball, whatever happened, got taken away from me, I had to medically, whatever reason, like A&M was the place I wanted to be through and through. And so I think that's what I kept coming back to and knew I wanted to be in College Station. So
we've talked to Coach Morrison on the show about he feels like this team coming in this year, this A&M team, has the makeup that could potentially, like the national championship type makeup. You have a lot of returners coming back. Afena, you, Ava, and then I want to specifically ask about Kendall Stowers. Just how has she gelled in this group, and what can Aggie fans expect from her?
Yeah. No, like I love Kendall with my whole heart. She's a great person, first off, like such an amazing teammate and has been such a great addition on that front. And then her volleyball speaks for itself. Like she is such a stud. And I think because of her history with Baylor and her medical stuff, like it's almost, she's kind of flying under the radar right now. And I just can't wait to see like her fly and read and just like show people what she can do, because she's like truly so amazing, and a huge addition to our team this year. So I'm super excited to play with her. She's been great off the court, but yeah, it's gonna be really fun.
Logan, let's close out with this, because kind of back to the first part of her question. This team last year left you wanting more, right? They were so close and they were so good and it was so exciting. How good can this team be?
Yeah, like Kay said it. I mean, really good. Like I truly believe we can make a really far run in the tournament. 11 seniors, adding Kendall Stowers, having 4 great incoming freshmen, and then everyone in between, right? Like, I mean, I think Jamie's come in, instilled that passion of volleyball he has and a great culture. I think everything builds off culture. Like if you don't have that foundation, you're not going to get anywhere. And so I think we're bringing all that culture back with our run last year, and it's just going to take us even farther. So I'm really excited. I mean, we took Wisconsin to 5 last year, and we're just going to be even better. So I can't even imagine what we're going to be able to accomplish this year in SEC play and in the tournament.
Logan, we appreciate it. Enjoy Rio, and can't wait to get you here in studio at some point to talk about next year.
Yes, thank y'all so much.
All right, that was David Nuño and Kay Nagley with volleyball player Logan Lednicky, Ryan Brauninger in the host chair for the remainder of the show. We're going to go to break right now. When we come back, Luke Evangelist will join me in the studio. We'll talk about Ruben Dominguez, Texas A&M, and Bucky McMillan's latest commitment. I don't even know if it's called a transfer portal. Maybe we will brush up on our Spanish as well. Luke is very happy this morning. Luke está muy feliz en la oficina this morning. So when we come back, Luke Evangelist breaking down Ruben Dominguez on TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. Welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. Going to have a quick segment here with TexAgs basketball analyst Luke Evangelist. Bucky Ball got the phone call this morning.
Yep.
Ruben Dominguez, Spanish, I guess wing player, 6'6", 22 years old. Kind of how did this come about? Who saw him? Who recruited him? Just give us the update on how we got to where we're at today.
So this is one where Bucky and his staff had to get a little creative, filling out roster spots. The portal is, as of right now, teams have started workouts, so there's really only one good player left, and that is Desmond Claude, and he is looking for a team. So the talent level in the portal has kind of been zapped, so you got to look elsewhere. This is one that's been in the works for, I believe, a month at least. They've had multiple staff members go out to Europe to go see him. This is a guy in Ruben Dominguez who was one of the best prospects in his age group. You look back to when he was playing at Euro Championships, he was beating Victor Wembanyama for the MVP award at these tournaments. So he was someone who was kind of plateauing at the professional level in Spain. So Illinois is a team that has a lot of success bringing over these European prospects, and Bucky McMillan and his staff identified him as a great shooter and a great fit for this system and said, hey, come play in this system where you probably won't use all 4 years of eligibility, but you have 4 years to develop and kind of get a fresh start on getting back into that NBA draft level that he wants to be at.
Well, give us an idea of where he fits talent-wise. And, there's obviously a big transition that comes with coming from Europe. He's an older guy, playing American-style college basketball. There's obviously going to be kind of a ramp-up period. But in terms of raw talent and skill set, where does he fit with this current roster now?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that ramp up. A lot of players that I've talked to on the Reed Report had to go from college to developing their body for that European game, which is a little bit more physical. So I think physicality-wise, his game probably will not see that much of a drop-off because he's just coming off screens and getting his shot off super quick. But talent-wise, I mean, the potential is there for him to be one of your better players. You just never know how well he's going to sync up timing-wise to the collegiate game. But the three-point line that he's been shooting off of in EuroLeagues is 2 feet deeper than the NCAA line. And if you look at his highlights, he's already shooting well behind the line. So shooting ability-wise, as long as the Reed Arena rims are no longer cursed, you have to feel good about that 41% three-point percentage translating. And that's against grown men. That is against more physical competition. So who's to say that in the SEC you can't see a similar production level? So as of right now, he probably fits in. I don't know if he's going to start the year as your shooting guard, but in this system, starters are not really that big of a title. Yeah, exactly. So he's going to play probably some decent minutes, but he could play the 2. He could play the 3 behind Rylan Griffin. So there's a lot of potential in this lineup. And he's 6'6", and there was a need for a taller knockdown shooter with Marcus Hill, your projected shooting guard starter, I guess, if you want to make a projection, being just 6'2".
Well, it's funny that you attribute some shooting struggles to maybe cursed rims. We'll see what happens with that going forward. But there is, to me, and I am completely basketball novice here, but it seems to me that like the emphasis on putting the ball through the basket is, we knew that was kind of one of Bucky's big philosophies coming in.
Yeah.
But now the roster is starting to match that, because you mentioned some of those names, but even the guys that are going to be handling the ball, like they're scorers. Whereas I think in previous years, how many true scorers did A&M had? You had Wade Taylor and Zurich, sort of, but they were both really streaky. And I think even if these guys coming in on this roster are going to be streaky, at least you've given yourself some insurance policies where I've got 5, 6, 7 guys that can put the ball through the net.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple guys you have to be excited about offensively. Even someone who was like, I guess you could say, under the radar addition with Rashawn Agee, who's going to be 6'8". Probably he could play like tight end or some massive, he could be your defensive end for Mike Elko, being like 6'8", 220. And he can step out and shoot threes. There's just so much versatility offensively with this team that I don't know how it's going to mesh. I don't know how all the pieces will look together, but I'm excited because for the last couple of years, it's been the same pieces returning, known commodities. You know exactly what you're going to get in Wade Taylor, and that's exciting. But this is, I think, even more exciting on this side of it that there are so many new guys that you get to watch mesh together in a system with a real identity of we're going to shoot threes, we're going to take more threes than probably you've ever seen in an A&M game before, unless you were watching them play Alabama. And offensive rebounding is an afterthought because the main priority is putting that initial shot through the hoop.
Yeah, I think intriguing is the best way to describe this roster with the play style. If I'm playing devil's advocate, and maybe this doesn't even matter, but I'm gonna look at the roster and go, okay, like I really like the length and the depth of the shooting on the roster right now. But in this league, in the SEC, like how are you going to compete in the low block? And Federico obviously helps that. Yeah. But where's the depth inside? Is that kind of the main area where you see the roster lacking? And I'm not saying roster lacking, because that might not be an important piece for what Bucky wants to do.
Right. I see. I think they've got size, but another part of that is you can't be 6'11", 190. Like you need some mass to you. Exactly. They've got Jamie Vincent, who is a freshman coming over from Texas, highly touted high school player. Give him a couple years to develop in this system. He's 6'11". You can add weight. Darby Rich can add some weight to you, but you can't add any height. For the most part, at this time in their life. So you've got him who's 6'11". You've got Zach Clements, who is 6'11", and already multiple years of collegiate basketball experience at Kansas. So they've got some size in that regard. And I feel like they've got 3 starters in the front court right now with Mackenzie Mbako, who is, surefire starter. And then at the center position, which really, when you're looking at a starting center, that's just the dude who's going to tip the ball off because they're both going to play a ton of minutes. Federico and Rashawn Agee both are starting level centers, I believe, on this roster. So really, whoever they go with to start is not going to be indicative of as one kind of dominating that role. I truly believe they're both going to play a ton, and they could both be out on the court at the same time.
And then what do you think happens now going forward? Is the roster set? Obviously, it may add a couple of walk-ons, but do you think like we now have a really clear picture of what year one of Bucky's going to look like?
100%. The picture is clear of what this roster is going to look like. If you have any eligibility left, they are hosting walk-on tryouts. I believe that is June 10th.
Are you talking
11th.
to Richard?
I'm just talking to anyone out there, including maybe some people in the back like Cade Bickham, who want to make that transition.
Matthew Dawson. We know Matthew Dawson can compete amongst the Giants.
He can. Look, Matthew Dawson can get his shot off. So if you are out there and you want to be a part of what Bucky is building, they've got walk-on tryouts, and I anticipate that's going to take up the last 1 to 2 spots.
I would worry about Matthew Dawson and his trips across the Sabine River if he was on the roster.
Yeah, he's not locked in during that time.
He's locked into other things, and it may be suspicious activity.
Exactly.
To NCAA governing bodies and officials. So we just leave it at that.
Yeah, Matthew may not be. He might get Bucky a violation here and there for his activities.
All right, dude. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
All right, on the other side of the break, Callie Garner will come in here. We'll go around Aggieland. And then at 10 o'clock, Billy Liucci joins the show. We have a lot to talk about. Haven't even got to MJ Brauninger, Michael Early's first commitment out of the transfer portal this summer. So a lot more to get to on the back, I guess, half of this version of TexAgs Live on a Friday morning. Stick with us on the other side of the break. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live on a Friday morning in the David Gardner's, we are presented by David Gardner's. I'm in the Rollo Insurance Studios, and it is time to go around Aggieland. Let's go over to Callie Garner. I'm telling you what, this Dutch
You seem a little flustered.
No, not flustered, like running hot, like jittery. I gotta figure my caffeine intake in the morning. I gotta figure like the equation out a little bit better.
I think it's just too much.
You're probably right.
Like the cup you bring every day.
Do you have a morning routine?
Massive. I do have a morning routine.
Do you care to share?
It's a little different every day, but
Then it's not a routine.
Well, okay. It consists of waking up, brushing my teeth, doing my makeup, doing my hair, coming to work, drinking an Alani.
Okay, that's not okay. I think we have a very different definition of what a morning routine. Amber, do you have a morning routine?
Mine's kind of the same as Callie's. I wake up, brush my teeth, put some makeup on.
Okay, I hate to do this.
Oh, I scroll on my phone for a little bit.
That's healthy.
Yeah, it's not, but it's part of routine sometimes.
When
Wakes me
somebody
up.
asks you, goes back to an episode of The Office, where the new manager, Mr. California, is it Robert California? Is his name? Sure. And he goes to the front desk and asks Aaron, the receptionist, Aaron, how's your day? Or what have you done today? And the first thing she says is, I woke up. And he says, when somebody asks you that, you don't have to say that you woke up because you're awake. Like, we know that.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
But what I was saying, the morning routine, because both of y'all said, I woke up. So
Well, we did.
that's what, right, for sure, because you're here.
Right.
But that's what made my brain click to The Office.
Okay.
But when I ask you, like, morning routine, I want to know, like, do you get up? Like, do you drink a bunch of water? Do you go out and get sunlight?
I make my bed. That's part of my morning routine.
Okay.
Make my
I
bed.
used to go out and get sunlight when I didn't live in an apartment, but now that I live in an apartment, it's a little bit more
You're very
difficult.
tan. You were getting sunlight somewhere. Where have you been going to get sunlight?
Multiple places.
Like a pool?
Yeah, that's one of them.
You go to the pool by yourself?
Nope. I go with some friends.
Oh, blonde-headed friends?
Yeah.
Okay. When y'all, I'm sure it's been hot. Do you get thirsty out there?
Yeah, Kay and I both have our water bottles that we bring out there.
Water bottles. Okay. Very hydrated. You and Kay Nagley, right?
Yeah.
Kaylee Dreyer, very
Kaylee Dreyer.
hydrated.
Very hydrated.
Like
Gotta
your
stay.
story.
It's hot out here. It's,
It is very-
It's
it was-
humid and hot, and that's a
Listen,
bad
I
combination.
mowed the grass yesterday, and I was happy that my lawnmower overheated because I was like, if I've got to do this, because I had like probably another 45 minutes to finish like mowing and weed eating, and I have a battery powered lawnmower, and it overheated, and so I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
I can stop and I'll finish,
Right.
finish the rest of the day. All right, you have stuff for us around Aggieland?
I do have stuff for us.
I
around
got to get back to the morning routine though, because we got to clean yours up, and probably yours as well.
I make my bed, so I'm off to a good start.
It's a routine, whether it's basic or not.
Okay, but like I get up and the first thing that I do is I get like a good, I don't know, like half a cup of water and just shoot it. Like, I don't know, I feel like that like gets me going. And then I have my vitamins and my fish oils, and I take a methylated multivitamin, and then I take fish oil, and I also do my collagen stuff, and then I have 1 scoop of Baja Gold mineral sea salt. Put it in water and just chug it. It's gross, it's salt water,
Yeah.
but it's good for you. Like that's part of my morning routine. Do you have anything like that?
No, but I do need any doctors who are listening right now to tell me or comment if he's doing way too much, because that feels like we're just overloading the vitamins.
I got that from Dr. Gary Brecka, Biohacking Your Life.
Someone
Okay.
thinks that shooting a bear is part of your morning routine.
Shooting a bear?
Yeah.
Okay. Callie, take it away around Aggieland.
My turn. Okay, guys, we'll start with baseball. There's a lot of news on the baseball front this week, including Texas A&M hiring former Aggie standout and 11-year MLB veteran Cliff Pennington as an assistant coach. He played for A&M from 2003 to 2005 and earned All-American honors, and he returns to oversee the infield defense and coach third base. He previously served as an assistant at Dallas Baptist, where he contributed to 4 NCAA regional appearances and developed multiple All-Americans. Also, with baseball news this morning, right-handed reliever MJ Brauninger is headed to Aggieland after transferring from FAU, where he posted a 2.01 ERA and a 1.13 WHIP. With over 44.2 innings across 28 appearances. On the basketball front, Texas A&M men's basketball continues to bolster its 2025-26 roster with the addition of Spanish national team guard Ruben Dominguez, a former U16 Euro Championship MVP. He played over 150 pro games and helped Spain win the gold at both U16 and U20 European Championships. In 2024 and 25, he averaged 7.6 points over 16 minutes per game, shot 43.3% from the three-point line and 88.9% at the line. Volleyball released its 2025 schedule on Monday, featuring 10 non-conference matchups and 15 SEC contests. In the return of the SEC tournament, the Aggies faced 13 teams from last year's NCAA tournament, including 8 from the SEC. They opened their schedule on August 25th against Minnesota at the AVCA First Serve event in South Dakota and have trips to Rice, Utah, SMU, and TCU before hosting the Texas A&M Invitational on September 18th. The SEC play begins on September 24th at Reed Arena versus Missouri, and the home slate is highlighted by matchups with Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the rival Texas on October 31st. The regular season wraps up with the SEC tournament in Savannah, Georgia, November 21st through 25th. Lastly, with Texas A&M track and field, Carter Bajwa and Heather Abity were named to the SEC Community Service Team for their impact on and off of the track. Both standout athletes helped lead a $36,000 mission trip to Panama and have deeply been involved in service efforts locally, nationally, and abroad.
Very good, Callie. Succinct. Well done.
Thank you.
I know we're a little bit of a time constraint. When we come back on the other side of the break, Billy Liucci will be in here at some point for the remainder of the show. If I've got a tap dance, I'm going to have Matthew Dawson come in here and help me tap dance because he has been putting together some very interesting graphics and numbers in regards to transfer portal and transfer portal quarterbacks. Want to get his thoughts on that. And he built a very lovely graph. Kate, I don't know if you have that yet. But if we have it, I'd like for us to run it because I think it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of our listeners and a lot of our viewers as well. All right, when we come back, the final hour of TexAgs Live of the week. On the other side of the break, we're presented by David Garner's Jewelers. All right, top of the 10 o'clock hour. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair, bringing you into your weekend. TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. We are awaiting the arrival, either in person or on the phone, of TexAgs executive editor and co-owner Billy Liucci. We are playing that one by ear, so we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, let's go over to the Angry Elephant Social Center, talk to Miss Amber Heath. And you have questions, comments, concerns for me?
Yeah,
baseball ones?
I got a little bit of everything. So baseball fans are really talking about all of the obstruction calls and malicious contact calls, especially the past few weeks. Feels like every game's a little bit of a questionable call, and there's not a lot of consistency, is what fans say. People seem to be over it, and I understand the rules are there to keep the players safe and the game fair, but I just kind of wanted to see your take on some of these calls.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with something that happened in the Women's College World Series. Got to be honest, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I haven't watched either either game of the final series yet. Maybe I can get that on tonight between Texas and Texas Tech. But I did see a play yesterday where obstruction was called on a rundown between third and home in a Texas high school baseball state championship game. Hotly contested call. The base runner, what you're taught as a base runner when you get into a rundown is find somebody to run into. Because if you do that, you may get an obstruction call. The odds of you making it out of a rundown safely are very, very low, especially the higher level of baseball that you're playing. So once you get caught into one, you're looking for somebody, an infielder that has screwed up and has not gotten out of the runner's lane, and you want to run into them. What happened in that state championship game yesterday is the runner was looking for somebody to run into, a fielder to run into, and the catcher threw the ball to the third baseman, and he started to peel off, and the runner switches direction, runs out of his way, out of the baseline to make contact with the catcher, and the umpires call obstruction. Now, I applaud the base runner. He's really well coached. That's what you should be doing. But it was pretty obvious to me that he went out of the baseline to make contact with the catcher who had just thrown the ball. He was awarded home plate on an obstruction call, and it was it kind of went viral on, I guess, Texas baseball Twitter, and everybody had an opinion on it. But I thought that was misruled or ruled improperly on that call, that type of play. The obstruction call and the new obstruction call, it started with Major League Baseball, where you can't block any element of the base when you do not have the ball. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's been some ambiguity of when the throw takes them into the line or takes them into the base. That to me is objectionable. It's kind of up to the interpretation and the visual of the umpire making the call. I got to admit, I'm not as well versed in the softball one, which I think is where some of this stuff is coming from. And I also know they had a play at the plate. Dawson, is this right? It was the Oregon Regional, right?
Yeah, against Utah Valley.
Yeah, Utah Valley. And they called obstruction. Actually, they ejected the runner with the catcher being right in the baseline. And what's the runner supposed to do that late in the throw? I didn't think it was malicious contact. It was just kind of the unfortunate circumstance of where the throw was, the catcher sliding into the line. And that goes back to what I was saying. If the catcher slides into the line late, it's up to you're leaving too much gray area, I think, for the umpires to make split-second decisions. Some of that I wish that you could use replay on. Right. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're going to eject somebody, go to replay. I think the more we watched it, the more I watched it, I was going, that's not malicious. That's just an unfortunate circumstance. And it wasn't too long ago. I mean, probably 10 or 15 years ago, where you could have contact with a catcher before he got the ball, and it could be violent. And that was in the game of baseball for so long. And I understand why we took it out, because we're trying to keep guys healthy for as long as possible. But it wasn't that long ago that that was a pretty commonplace happening at home plate. And a lot of the baseball folks that I talked to viewed that play at the plate against Oregon and Utah Valley as a completely non-issue, and that the umpires made it an issue. And so the more rules and regulations that you are putting on the game, then you're asking these umpires in some instances where, especially in college baseball, where I feel like what I've seen is that they are undertrained. I think we should get them more training, but when you give them more rules with the amount of training they've got now, you leave a lot of ambiguity on the table, and you open them up. I don't think you're putting your umpires in the best position to make the proper calls and enforce the rules of the game efficiently. To me, this goes back to A&M played a midweek game. I think it was against Lamar. It was, because it was Michael Early got ejected. And there was a tapper to the mound, and it was Gavin Lyons, I think, was pitching. But anyway, whoever was pitching fielded the ball and clearly tagged the runner going by. But the home plate umpire and the first base umpire didn't see it, so they called it safe. And then it was Jeff Head was on the crew, and that's who Mike Early went out to talk to that play about. Jeff Head said, hey, we can't review that. Now, that's not Jeff Head like mis-umpiring or missing a call. That is, my question with that is, why isn't every batted ball reviewable? Like, anytime the ball is put in play, every element of it should be reviewable. But the reasoning was, for some, like, I can't wrap my brain around it. It's that the ball was fielded in front of the base, so it's not reviewable. The tag was made in their estimation or their definition of it wasn't close to a base. It wasn't in the proximity of a base, so we can't review it. Like, that's the most lame explanation as to why you can't review something. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
That doesn't justify not being able to review that play because it's not close to a base. Any ball that's put in play, any live ball in baseball, I think every element of the play should be reviewed. My personal opinion. But, and I think we have admitted by having replay across all sports, like, we have admitted that there is human error in these games. Like, there's human error in officiating games. So I think if we're going to admit that, then we need to be more liberal with what can be reviewed. That's my opinion. We welcome in Matthew Dawson. You just got the call from the pen.
Well, I agree with you, first of all. I mean, why is that not a reviewable? That doesn't make sense.
Why isn't every element of a batted ball reviewable?
I agree. I mean, I know, like, fair and foul down the first and third base line is not.
Why isn't it?
I don't know.
If the goal is to get the call right, correct?
That is the goal.
And if we have the technology to get every call right, whether it be safe out, fair foul, why aren't we doing that? Now, I understand completely the, like, you can't do it for balls and strikes. We'd be there forever.
Or balks.
Yeah, or balks. Like, but even with balks, like, some of it, like, I get it. But if it's blatant and they miss it, like, that should be reviewable. But, like, there has to be some lines drawn somewhere, correct? And I don't mind them drawing it at balls and strikes, even though we saw it at Bluebell plenty of times this year, how bad the ball strike stuff was and how it can influence and change games and outcomes. But, maybe they go to the challenge system in college baseball. I'd love to see them do that. But we continue. We're in 2025. We have all this technology available. They implement all those Hawkeye cameras now at SEC ballparks. Like, how are we continuing to go along with this set of rules governing replay whenever it's clearly like we're so much better at it now that we need to be expanding what's allowed to be reviewed because it's happening quicker and it's not adding 30 minutes, to a game.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like, would you say that the biggest challenge in SEC officiating is balls and strikes, though?
Yes, I think so. And to me, that goes back to what I said about training. Like, I don't know what the offseason training is for baseball, but I do know that it can't hurt to get these guys more training.
Yeah, or, like, how about incentivizing? Maybe, I don't know, find a way to pay them more, find a way to get, like, more former baseball players to be umpires,
Yeah, there is an officiating and umpire, like, they need more, not just more bodies, but more qualified bodies to do it.
Right.
And so it's a thankless job because if a guy goes behind the dish and he does a great job, how often do we ever know his name? But if he pulls an Angel Hernandez, everybody knows his name.
Everyone knows.
So it's difficult. I appreciate you pinch hitting.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, we're going to a commercial break. I think we're going to have Billy either in studio or on the phone when we come back. On TexAgs Live, we are presented by David Garner's Jewelers. All right, thanks for sticking with us on a Friday morning. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair. TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, joined by TexAgs executive editor, co-owner Billy Liucci. A lot to get into, man. So you come in here on a Friday morning in the summer and you don't know. Are we going to go over, the depth chart again at tight end, or is some actual news going to happen with basketball still filling out their roster and obviously baseball as well? So we'll start on the hardwood with Bucky McMillan. Had Luke in here to tell me about it because I wasn't familiar with this kid, but seems like an exciting piece to the puzzle and continuing to upgrade the overall scoring ability of the roster.
Yeah, shooting and scoring.
Right.
I would almost say, obviously some of these guys can really put it on the floor and get to the basket, but even more than scoring, just shooters. And and this isn't even, I've thought about this before, Bronny. This is not a knock on Buzz. Of course, his teams always seem to lack shooters. I never quite understood. I'd always hoped every offseason, particularly after they lost that game to Penn State in the tournament, well, maybe that'll just get them, just get one just knocked down dead eye from 3-point range and maybe give up a little bit on the defensive end. Or maybe get somebody that could do both, which would be wild. But Josh Carter, Chris Middleton, obviously Middleton went on to be a great NBA player. But since those couple guys, like Turgeon generally didn't have guys that could just knock it down. Chris was one of the exceptions.
Would you say the BK teams were?
They scored more than they shot, to me.
And I think they were more capable from beyond the arc, the depth of it, right? When you look at that.
Yeah,
Daniel
then Buzz
House,
and
DJ
Turgeon.
Hogue,
yeah. And Hogue, you thought was going to be that guy. And in certain games, he was. House, I felt like still did more of his damage, as a driver, dunker, getting fouled guy. But they could shoot better than the Buzz and Turgeon and Gillespie teams. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, outside of Josh, Billy Clyde's teams weren't shooting the lights out. They were more of the style that Buzz was implementing. So it all won to varying degrees.
Was that a shot at Logan Lee?
Yeah, seriously. But they all won to varying degrees. But it's just something we haven't seen a coaching staff really target and identify as what they want, and they're finding it in a lot of different guys and a lot of different ways. And these last couple, with today's edition and Nuño screwed me up on it. Pop Isaacs. Well, he says Pops every time, and it's gonna be habit forming over here. But those two guys can really fill it up as shooters. To go get, and this is a guy Luke's known about him because it's been a couple weeks in the making here. And so he had his stuff ready like a good pro does. And look, to add a shooter, a scorer, a pro, and he's 6'6", length.
He's 22,
he's
so
he's a professional. Yeah, he's 22 years old. Played how many years in the pro ranks? 6, or is it 4 or 6 years in the professional ranks over there? So this is a mature basketball player that, there's a lot of them they're adding. They don't have a lot of veterans with this team because there's none to have, but they have a lot of veterans of college basketball. They have a lot of guys that have won to varying degrees at different programs. If you look at some of the programs they're getting guys from, they're generally winning programs, and they're from Power 5 conferences for the most part. And you've got a couple of mid-majors mixed in there, and then you go off and now you've added a foreign prospect that you went and got from overseas. So, and they might not be done. This is the guy I've been talking about. For those wondering, this is the guy that I've been saying they've got another trick or two up their sleeve. It was Pop, and then it was this. Those were the ones I was talking about. The Pop Isaacs one actually came together pretty quickly. I had my eyes more so on the USC prospect that went in the portal, not
Desmond Claude.
That's who I was eyeballing. I thought they would end up Claude and today's edition, but the Pop Isaacs one came about really quickly when U of H had one of their best players it was assumed was going to stay in the NBA draft come out, created an opportunity for A&M to swoop in and make that one happen. So now they've probably, I think they've got one more scholarship if they can find the right guy. So the question is that a 13th, 14th guy on the roster guy that maybe you're looking at a down the road thing, or you're looking at filling out depth or practice or whatever it may be? Or I wouldn't underestimate Bucky and this staff. You just don't know. They might get one more guy that's like a future pro. You know, they might be like, well, we just got to round out the roster. Oh, wait, you know, you got so many coaches on this staff right now that can recruit and are tied into so many places. You can just imagine that meeting and somebody raise their hand and go, Coach, you know, it's almost like, do you have any more money left? Because, so I wouldn't put anything past them for that final spot. My expectation would be somebody to kind of round out the roster.
And so you kind of lead me to two questions. I'll start because the last thing you mentioned was the coaching and the assistant staff. And when you look at Mitch Cole, Kyle Keller, Frank Haith, like all of those guys, with Cole and Keller obviously having a lot of connections to this place and understanding how it works, this has been really impressive. It's led by Bucky, but it's almost like he's got hounds. Yeah. Hey, I want this type of player. Go find him and go get him.
Oh, they got hounds is a good word because they got some dogs on that coaching staff. You know, guys like Frank Haith and Kyle Keller have been doing this forever, and they've been head coaches. But this recruiting game, they're old dogs that know, you know, and they're still at the top of their game, hungry. Those guys are never going to change in that regard. I mean, you look at where Frank Haith's been, where Keller's been. These are guys that have been assistants at big-time programs. They've been head coaches. Haith's been, you know, Power 5 head coach, I think twice, right? So absolutely, to put together this staff is as impressive as what he's doing on the recruiting front. So it's really exciting to think about what they can do moving forward now that they've, you know, to see what they did in the portal just now and to know that they can go out now and pursue the high school ranks to whatever degree. And I think they've proven what they can do in the portal, but imagine having an entire cycle to get prepared for the portal.
Now, as a basketball novice, and I know you think that probably shocks you to hear.
You had quite the day yesterday, Eloninger.
Eloninger?
Well, yeah, Elon had quite the day.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. That was like
Save
the two most
Olin.
powerful men on the planet arguing like on the TexAgs message boards after a loss.
Yeah, it was. It was like arguing whether or not they should have thrown it on 4th and goal against Texas.
But what I was going to say is, if all of these pieces that Bucky went and got, they fit the profile. When you hear Bucky talk about how he wants to play, there's no doubt he went and got guys that fit his system and really did a remarkable job of doing that. The challenge is they're all coming from different directions, and what you said was, you know, none of them are veterans here at this place. So these summer workouts and what happens during the early fall is going to be massively important to building some cohesion, because the individual parts certainly they appear like they're going to fit into what Bucky wants to do. It's how they play together.
Yeah, individual. If you gave me this roster and said raw talent, NBA prospects, pro, you know, overseas prospects.
They haven't had one in a while.
I think, you know, it's better than the one that just went to 3 straight tournaments.
No question.
But what Buzz did, and Bucky will do because he did it at Samford, what Buzz had was a team of guys that the core nucleus played together for a long time, and then when Boots left, you just plugged in somebody new that fit. You know, Dexter Dennis was a one and done, but he fit, and you know, and that's what they'll ultimately do here. But you can't do that in year one. So your alternative is, quote unquote, save money. I don't subscribe to that theory, because if you do that and you go 0 for 18 like Missouri did in year one, what that guy did, Gates, this year was remarkable because they hung in there. But I don't know what at this place in basketball, what's the NIL appetite if a team goes 0 and 18 or 2 and 16 in conference, and then year two you go, hey, remember we we took that L the first year, so now we need it. Might be like, don't you get that rev share? Like, it's not a good. I like what they did. They went out, they put together a roster that talent and skill wise can get them to the tournament. It's so far from a guarantee. I don't even think that's a fair expectation to put on it. I do think it puts it within play. That's what they're aiming for and gunning for with this roster.
I think, but like to what I was saying was
just getting it together is not easy.
For sure.
And what I was going to tell you, Bronny, we saw it in baseball this year, which to me is a much more individual sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't take any help to catch a baseball. You know, like, I can make a 1 out of 10 easy play in the field, flip and throw it to first, guy can make it. Like, what I do has nothing to do with for the most part. I mean, I understand I'm oversimplifying, but compared to basketball, when it's spacing and it's working together and the passing and the angles and the lanes and the pick and rolls and the screens and all of that, team defense, there's a pitcher, you're up there hitting, you ain't got anybody else helping you. You know, baseball's a team sport, and we saw where they fell short sometimes this year, but it was still hard. People underestimated how many new pieces were a part of that baseball team this year. But because it was baseball, I think a lot of people just assumed, well, they got this pitcher and that pitcher, and they got this bat and that bat and that bat, which a couple of them they ended up not having. But you just assumed it was going to all come together, and it took a half a season for that to happen. I know there were outlying reasons, but my point is, even in baseball, where it's much more individualized, it was not easy this year. And that's the same thing right now for Aggie basketball. I'd compare it more to like what Slosh had to do in year one, where he came in and it was kind of like, it was going to kind of be a hard reset. But even this is different because they had one player back.
Yeah, and it's
one player. Slosh was going to try to reinvent a lot of players that he walked into from the Childress era, right? This is not the case.
No, and I think that Bucky has a collection of shiny pennies.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to find out how to make a nickel. And that was, who was it, Jim Turner that you said about his offensive line? It's like, it's not about the 5 individuals, it's about the collective.
5 fingers got to make a fist.
Who said that?
I mean, a lot of people say that. You know, O-line, there's 5 fingers. Make a fist.
That sounds like a Steve.
Speaking of coaches and Steve and Seth,
Were you?
I'm going to Metallica like next week in Houston, and I sent a. You know, when you ask somebody where they're at this weekend and they say Morocco, and I go, "What are you doing?" and they say top secret mission. Like, I really don't think that's the way to go about answering that question.
I would just not even.
No,
if it's top secret. Yeah,
I don't want to know why you're in Morocco. But I texted. This is what I said to him. I was listening to Metallica on my drive back from Columbus yesterday, where I was doing your job over there visiting with the state champion.
Well, there's a reason why you had to visit with him in June, and you didn't get to do so in December after when he was hoisting the trophy.
I caught all kinds of hell for missing that state title game. I said, "When's the last time you just let this one rip?" And I sent Dan at 10 o'clock. It's The Unforgiven by Metallica. So here's the thing. Dan and I's schedules, as you might imagine, are vastly different. Like, he's asleep at 10. He texts back at 6:47. Obviously, I'm not up at 6:47, which I might have been today. And you know what he says? "When's the last time you let this one rip?" He goes, "Actually, yesterday morning," which is so true. That guy probably drives to work listening to Metallica.
Well, let's go to an early break because I want to talk about Dan, the video that they put out.
Hall of Fame class.
Hall of Fame class, the whole thing. So let's go to a break here, Cade. On the other side, more to get to with Billy Liucci. Going football, maybe a little bit of baseball. MJ Brauninger in the boat for Michael Early and company in this summer transfer portal window. When we come back on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back. Bottom of the 10 o'clock hour.
Billy
Get ready.
Ray Cyrus.
Billy Ray Cyrus bringing you back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger inside the Rollo Insurance Studios, getting you ready for your weekend. And Billy,
you know who he's dating now?
Billy Ray Cyrus? I don't. Why do you know?
I just saw a picture of it on Twitter or something.
He looks terrible.
Well, yeah, but she was Austin Powers' love interest.
Felicity Shagwell?
No, I don't think it was Felicity Shagwell. And it wasn't a lot of. It was Elizabeth Hurley.
Oh yeah, what was her name?
Remember, she was so popular in the '90s. I guess
she's dating Billy Ray Cyrus.
And why we came back with "Achy Breaky Heart" when you could have done "Could Have Been Me," which is a classic. That's actually one of the 2 go-to karaoke songs. I can't do it anymore because no one knows the song, but in the 90s, that was a great one. And then they had one. He had a military one that was good.
He's aged pretty well.
All gave one. All gave some gave all.
He's aged pretty well.
Yeah.
He's clearly like darkening his hair and his like beard and stuff.
Well, you would
never.
They made a big deal. I think these like Texas people that are obsessed with, like the ones that are like, they're literally, I mean, they might criticize like, I'm trying to think of like this shirt or the fit of it. It's really borders on weird. It went way past weird.
Borders on weird?
Yeah, it's way past weird. And you listen and watch every day. Thank you. I know you wanted to meet me at the Texas game, but you never made that happen. You probably should have. I would have loved to have met the guy that has spent the last 15 years worrying about me and us. But they made an issue about my hair, and it was pretty funny, actually, because it was like they saw the gray and did the Mugatu, because I had it like kind of blown out at Pate's wedding. But yeah, I'm sorry. 51 years old. My bad. Like, jeez.
Look, I mean,
we're going to. Now, if I did this, I feel like I look a lot younger. What do you think?
I mean, no,
Baby
it doesn't
face.
even look like you. But
I know, I look weird.
We do probably need to get that video that Steve or Seth sent to our group. That was circa, 2000, probably.
No, that was at the game. Speaking of these people.
Oh, that was
it was
the Texas
at
game.
the same game, Texas game 2011 with the GIF.
Yeah,
when Tannehill got late hit, I'm still pissed about it. Late hit out of bounds by, I'm going to see how good my memory is here. I want to say Keenan Robinson, if that was his name,
correct.
linebacker from, I believe, Plano East, maybe? Think Plano East. Blatant late hit on Tannehill. Out of bounds, not called. Later in the game, they called Trent Hunter for the late hit on the sideline. So,
Keenan Robinson, Plano East.
Yeah.
Very good.
Not bad. Now, I'll tell you what, you talk about a 5-star linebacker that just.
Those Texas teams had real players on them.
And that was towards the
big, intimidating dude, Sergio Kendall.
That Texas team was bad.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of
the year
NFL
before
talent.
was the really good one.
Yeah, but they still on that team.
Yeah.
I think Jackson Jeffcoat was on that team, Keenan Robinson, your boy from Beaumont, the D tackle that played in the league for a while. He went to like Beaumont Kelly or somewhere because A&M wanted him bad out of high school. He went to the private school, I think.
That's Kelly, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm surprised you didn't know that. And then they had DBs. I know, I think Quandre Diggs might have had no, he didn't have the pick 6 in that game, but Quandre Diggs, I think, was still on there.
Blake Gideon started at one of the safeties.
One of the guys who had the pick 6 was, I think, he was from Lufkin. It was one of the first times A&M had missed on a guy from Carrington Bynum, maybe. But anyway, yeah, that team. That's the worst part about that loss is that was not a good Texas team. So it's like when you're going to be in a rivalry, this is kind of like Bama and Auburn sometimes. The last thing you want to do is lose, like Ohio State, Michigan this year. If you're going to lose to Michigan in your Ohio State, lose to where it's a war and it's like a great Michigan team. Don't lose to a terrible Michigan team in year 1 under Sharon Moore.
All right, you want to talk about this most recent class of Texas A&M Hall of Fame inductees, and obviously you have some close ties to some of these.
Yeah.
Rod Bernstein going way back, but Ryan Swope, JT Higgins. And then just let's start with Dan and the video that A&M put out kind of in conjunction with the Lions that was really cool. Obviously, you never get non-authentic Dan. I don't know Dan obviously like you do, but like you're getting the same guy all the time. And so his reaction to that with Mike Clark and R.C. Slocum, that was really cool. And Steven Slarth made the cut.
Well, Seth did it, so of course he made the cut. If you knew the harassment I gave Seth, it was to the point where Steve and I did a prank call where I was on the other line, Seth didn't know, and we're just giving him the hardest time. But no good deed goes unpunished. Right. I think Seth said, I'm trying to be a good friend here, not worried about, so. And then I texted him what he said while we're on the call, and he just laughed. Yeah. But Seth did a great job. Dan, such a cool honor for him. That guy loves A&M so much, and loves his time here so much. And I don't think Dan had like a lot of Aggies in his family, so it was just like a straight up pick. Hunter hosted him on his visit. Dan he's a one of a kind. He is who he is always. Never changes, never will. Same way with his players and coaches and owners as he was with his teammates and friends and roommates and coaches. It hasn't changed at all. Cool honor for him. I love that Coach Clark's up there. I've told you before, there's a strong Aggie contingent up there. And now AG left, but you go up there actually a couple of Aggie ties left, but you go up there to a game and they've got a guy that was worked in the building here on staff. So you got another guy that was a GA here under, I think, Sumlin. You had AG. You've got Don Muehlbach is still in the organization. You're walking around before the game. You run into Muehlbach. Coach Clark, who was everybody, all the guys there was their strength coach when they were in college and for most of RC's tenure. And another guy, totally forgot last year and then left and realized I didn't even talk to him. Terrell Williams was on staff. Yeah. That was Dan's D-line coach, a former A&M D-line coach. And he took the job now. He's the Patriots D coordinator. So a couple of those Aggie, Aaron Glenn becomes the head coach of the Jets. Terrell, T-Dub goes to the Pats as a DC. So those guys are moving on up. But, yeah, that means the world to Dan. I think it was awesome. The Letterman's Association is, basically they're honoring the athletes. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right here. They're honoring the athletes for what they've done on the field at A&M. And Dan, should he be in the A&M Hall of Fame for what he did on the field, that's an interesting debate that they didn't have to have because you were able to do it. Lifetime achievement. What he's done in coaching, that's what gets him. And also as an NFL player, that many years in the NFL, what was it? I want to say like 11 maybe. Whatever, but almost a dozen years in the NFL, and then what he's doing now as one of the top coaches in the National Football League. But as a player, I think you tie that in, and it's like he was always kind of your blocking tight end. He caught some big passes, but he was your blocking tight end. They had a guy named Derek Spiller, who I still stay in touch with, who was an incredible tight end in college. Really unsung hero of that Big 12 title game in '98. But Dan was like the acknowledged hero of that locker room for a championship team, for a program that built their way into being a championship team at A&M in the Big 12. He was Aggie Hart Award winner, team captain of, unfortunately, and it's just mind-boggling to say it, but A&M's last conference champion, which was all the way back in 1998. So great for him. JT, national champ. That was in a heyday there where all of a sudden Pat Henry showed up. They're winning national titles. Gary Blair and the girls win one across the street over there. And JT and that national championship in the Bronson Burgoon shot, really dramatic title. I'd love to see them get back to that. But that's an overdue honor for him. And I heard y'all talking about Swopey the other day. Whew. I mean, Mike Evans and Ryan Swope, I don't care how you do it. And there's been some great receivers at A&M. But that's 1-2. And then, if you want to go have the longer debate, I think probably Christian Kirk after that. Everybody knows T. Murph's in that discussion. Too many people are going to leave off Josh Reynolds that shouldn't, because he deserves to be way up there too. But to me, it's without question Mike Evans and Swope.
And the cool thing is, if you asked each of them,
they'd give the other one.
They'd give the other one as the best.
No, they're great friends. Ton of respect between those two. Some of the plays Ryan Swope made in his career, just some of them from degree of difficulty. Some of them big game moments. Some of them just incredible toughness.
Yeah.
He really, this is just the truth. And Ryan and I've talked about before, like he really gave up a pro career for what he did at Texas A&M. Like, what he sacrificed in terms of his body going across the middle, taking the hits he did, and not being scared, whatever the opposite of scared was, that's what he was. And, he sacrificed a pro career. And it's why I'm so happy he's got such a great professional career and family, constantly growing family with their fourth son.
Those kids are going to be able to play, and they're going to be tough suckers just like their dad. Like, it would be, if all four of those are Division I athletes in different sports, it would not surprise me one bit.
So,
but it's cool for Swope, and
he's a freaking Aggie legend.
And we're up against the break, because I don't want to just be, the final segment just be over with. But
we're going to do
we're going to overtime.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll ask you this then: your favorite or most memorable Ryan Swope catch?
It's either
he caught the one from Johnny that was Johnny's Heisman moment.
It was either that wheel route, that one on the sideline, or the one right before it where he did get his head taken off, got sandwiched by a couple Alabama defenders, or the one on the 2-play touchdown drive where he caught down the sideline where Johnny made that perfect throw. And those two, I'd almost
can I throw one in the mix?
Combined to one, yeah.
The 4th down slant against Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl.
For the touchdown?
Yeah.
That was a big time one. I was happy to see him get in there, but I'll give you one better. I think it's, to me, there's two that stand out. One, I'm trying to determine, one of these plays he got wrecked in a Big 12 game and caught it. It might have been Oak State.
I thought it was Baylor.
It might have been Baylor, but Oak State he did, but I don't remember if he caught it or not. It might have been just a personal foul. But I would say, to me, it was the game-winning touchdown against Ole Miss in Oxford. Just because of clutch, it capped off an incredible comeback late, and it was such a great route, and just kind of caught it over that wrong shoulder, running into the corner to win the game on the road. And that was A&M's first SEC road game as a member of the conference. And they had played Florida, and I think they played Arkansas at home that year, which he also had like an 80-yard touchdown against them in the rain. But that play, people forget. I always say this: Vandy beat Missouri that day, and Vandy was by far the worst team in the league at the time, or so they thought. James Franklin was just getting it, and A&M was losing to Ole Miss. People think of Ole Miss as the Ole Miss we know in the SEC. That was Hugh Freeze's first year. Ole Miss had lost 15 straight SEC games, and they were going to break the streak against A&M and Johnny, and it was going to look like Texas A&M and Missouri, neither one of them belonged in the league. And from there, things went crazy. So it was a review at the goal line to determine whether it was a safety or not, and then 99 yards on 3 plays.
We were standing.
Evans, Molina, Johnny.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom. But Swope with that game winner. And
we were standing at the tunnel, like before the Mike Evans 3rd and long catch.
What were you doing in the tunnel at that point?
No, not the exit. Like we were.
I was about to say,
standing
what
next
kind
to
of
like
hovering had you accomplished in that?
We were standing. I went with the Big Dipper, Evan Ike. We drove out there. he was leading yells before the game. In
Two
the
of y'all
parking
had the arm length of a normal person. And I'm only going, you don't have, that was a shot at the Big Dipper.
But we were like literally getting ready to walk out of the stadium.
Yeah.
Mike makes that catch. We go back to our seats. After a couple plays, I score, and that was a wild comeback. And you're like, I almost forgot that Swope had kind of the dagger that night, and it was a Tony Hurd interception.
Yeah,
to end the
Tony
game.
Hurd and it. Well, there's a couple. Tony Hurd. There was 2 years in a row, and Tony ended one, and then there was two remarkable comebacks. That one, I think, was the Tony Hurd interception.
That one was
the other
Steven
one
Jenkins.
was a walk-off. The other one was a walk-off field goal.
Yeah, Josh Lambo.
Yeah.
Both Johnny Heroic and both of those. But yeah, Swope just a career literally, and like it's so cool because he was the recipient of the Johnny Heisman play, like the fumble and spin out. And that iconic call by Vern Lundquist. And if you go back to 2011, the Dave South, was it 2011, 2010? Dave South, how about those apples against Oklahoma? That was Swope. All of these kind of legendary.
Oh, you're talking about in the Cotton Bowl?
No.
Oh, in
Oklahoma,
Norman.
No, in College Station. Swope had a long catch and run.
Right. That's
and then
right.
Dave South
that was the game where A&M and Cyrus went off.
And had the goal line stands.
Cyrus had the spinning catch.
Yeah.
Because Swope in 2011, it was 10. In 11, Swope had, I think, a big touchdown against OU in Norman right before halftime that made the game interesting. And then Oklahoma pulled away. And then there was an earthquake. Anyway, a little history lesson.
All right, we come back. We'll close the regular edition of TexAgs Live. Billy wants to do a little bit of overtime. We got to talk some baseball. We got some questions over there in the social center as well. We'll get to all that before we get rid of you on a Friday morning on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right. If you want to hang around an extended sports discussion, don't forget you can hang with us on TexAgs Live, TexAgs.com, and we will do the overtime segment. Cade, you can just shake your head yes or no. Is that streamed on YouTube? I do not know that. It is not. So you're going to have to be on the site to get that. And here in 2 minutes, we're going to kick it to other programming on Bryan College Station, local radio, KZNE Sports Radio 1150. Luch, real quick, I guess we can do this right now.
Yeah, you got a minute.
I got a minute, and it's hard with you for a minute. You know,
you've already wasted the minute.
Well, people forget that I hosted a show with you for a while, and it does take a little bit to understand how to prep or not prep for a Billy Liucci
Did Penn
segment.
State give me a faulty mug
You
here?
think it's got stuff on, like it was
Tampered with? Well, I think like
these
the
tariffs are killing us, huh?
Yeah, I think like the paint is coming off after one wash. It's like I kept thinking there was something on it, but it's not.
Were you?
Josh is busy on his honeymoon in like Saint Lucia. Somewhere. Oh, Saint Lucia.
Yeah, saw that this morning.
Stalks you.
posted
Saint
it this
Lucia, just and just giving out faulty mugs.
You need to go to the Caribbean, not
I've been
Mexico.
To the Caribbean.
Because I know you like to go to Mexico.
I've been to the Caribbean.
Oh, I didn't know you'd gone to like a Caribbean. Which island?
Caribbean guy. Cayman a couple times.
Oh, I've heard the Caymans are nice.
They're nice, but I mean, I'm going. I don't want to say it because then I'll lock myself in. But I'm going, planning to go to one of those other islands this summer for 3-4 days.
Obviously, I am a big proponent of the Virgin Islands. Love
that's what your social media tells us.
Yes, and that's what I will tell you as much as I can. All right. I did a good job of killing that minute without getting you down a rabbit hole that we couldn't stop.
I think the mug would be considered a rabbit hole. I don't know.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
It's all
TexAgs
over,
Live.
Pate. It's everywhere.
Keep it locked here on TexAgs if you want to continue to the overtime segment. Right now, we're kicking it to the Louis Bellina Show. Thanks for tuning in. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
I don't know what's going on.